I like to do this. Good evening, everybody. If you're standing in the back, there's lots of seats up here tonight, so you can come down and sit down on both sides. There's lots of seats over here. We're going to have a roll call to order by our City Clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present, with the exception of Councilwoman Rigby.
We're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance, if you'll all rise, led by Councilmember Franklin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Boyna Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Boyna Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. And next is our approval of our agenda by our City Manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes this evening.
And we had a closed session. Our City Attorney, Daryl Piper, will take us out of our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on item CS1 on tonight's closed session agenda. No action was taken. There's nothing to be reported.
Okay, we have just one presentation this evening, the recognition of our Adopt a Block volunteers. So if the council would like to come down with me, and we'll give their recognition certificates to them. Okay, so we appreciate all of them. Though the city's Adopt a Block program, groups or individuals adopt an area of the city to help keep it clean. The city provides the supplies while the groups provide volunteer manpower. Tonight, we'd like to recognize the Vista Clean Environment Group. This group of 38 volunteers provided a total of 855 volunteer hours through bi-monthly cleanup activities. So please come up to the front of the room. We call your name and remain up front so that we can take a group picture. So first, we're going to call Maria Cerrone de Velasco. Velasco. I should do John. He can get the pronunciations. Probably the. Come back here. Okay, stay right here, and then we're going to call everybody up. Okay. Okay, Jessica Velasco Cerrone. Okay, Brian Velasco. And Christopher Velasco. Thank you guys for doing what you do. Appreciate you. Maria Solomon. Rigoberto Solomon. I think we have the whole family here. David Solomon. Alexandra Solomon. And Gabriela Solomon. Yasmin Morales Lopez. Is she here? I don't see her. How about Clementina Lopez? Okay, the Lopez family isn't here. Richard Morales Lopez. Richard here? think they maybe didn't make it yet. Maybe they'll be here in a little while. Ernestina Nieto. Is Ernestina here? How about Lena Luis? Hey. Guadalupe Aquino Luis. Isabella Aquino Luis. Jose Aquino. Am I saying it? This Aquino Luis and Israel Aquino Luis. Alma Garrido. Is Alma here? Michelle Angelino Garrido. Sylvia Garrido Mendez. No? Maria Resendez. Oh. Kimberly Delgado. Here comes Kimberly. Delfina Delgado. Brian Delgado. And last one is Ruby Delgado. Okay, this group is a group that keeps our city clean. They all adopted a block and did a great job this year, so thank all of you. have to squish together. Short ones in front, little ones in front here. Maybe we should go out here. Will they see, will they be able to see the little ones over the back? Everybody, yeah, little ones in front.
Got us all?
Can you get us all in now?
Yeah. All right.
And anybody else that wants to adopt a block and take care, help clean up our city, we would appreciate it. So with that, we're going to move on to our consent calendar. We have, let's see, how many items today? C1 through C19. The recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public can remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the city clerk secretary. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following adoption of the calendar. So of the 19 items, do I have anything? There's no one from the audience that's removed anything. Is anything removed here? If not, I would accept the motion. Yes, Councilmember
I just
Green.
want to register my no vote for item number C18, please.
Okay, and would you...
With that, I'll move to approve the consent calendar as listed.
Do I have a second on that? Second. Super. Okay. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda are our public hearing, and we have 6 public hearings tonight. We have a full agenda tonight. Our first public hearing is to receive testimony regarding planning case P17-0042 MLC Buena Vista Condominium Project. So our public hearing is now open. Community Development and Engineering Director John Conley is going to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Chris Winters is going to be presenting for us this evening. He's a project manager.
Thank you, Mayor Ritter and members of the council. Public hearing item number 1 is for proposed zone change, site development plan, tentative subdivision map, and condominium housing permit submitted by applicant MLC Holdings, planning case P170042. The project site is a single parcel that is 4.8 acres in size, located at 1525 Buena Vista Drive. The property is currently occupied by the West Coast Baptist Church. The site consists of the primary church building, a school building, parking and playground areas, and undeveloped land. The site is bounded to the north and east by single-family homes, agricultural land, and greenhouses. Single-family homes bound the site to the south, which can be seen beyond the fence line in the image at the upper left, and a 212-unit apartment complex bounds the site on the west, a portion of which can be seen in the image on the right. The existing general plan land use designation for the project site is medium-density residential, which allows for up to 10 dwelling units per acre. The Wesley Way neighborhood to the south has the same designation. Areas to the north and east are designated rural residential within the county of San Diego. To the west and southwest are high-density areas, and there's a mix of high and medium-density residential farther to the east within the Shadow Ridge specific plan. The applicant requests approval of a zone change from E1 Estates Residential, which would allow for 2 dwelling units per acre, to the RM10 Multi-Residential Zone to allow for 10 dwelling units per acre, which would be consistent with the existing general plan designation. In addition to the zone change, the project includes a request for approval of a site development plan to develop 44 two-story single-family detached condominiums at a density of 9.2 dwelling units per acre. Of the 44 condominiums, 13 would be 3-bedroom units, 31 would be 4-bedroom units, with sizes ranging from approximately 1,800 to 2,400 square feet. All units would include an attached 2-car garage. As shown on the site plan, the homes would face an internal U-shaped private street with access connecting to Buena Vista Drive at the northeast corner of the project. The southerly access point would be for emergency vehicles only. The project includes a centrally located recreational area, which is approximately 7,200 square feet in size. That includes an activity lawn and play equipment, a shaded seating area, and a barbecue. The project includes 4 parking spaces for every dwelling unit. There's also room for 17 additional guest parking spaces within the private street for a total of 193 on-site parking spaces. This number does not include the parking located on Buena Vista Drive. Regarding open space, 42% of the project's site would be landscape area, which includes 26,000 square feet of private yard areas, the neighborhood park, and planted biofiltration basins. The condominiums are designed with Spanish and Monterey architectural styles, enhanced with metal railings, pot shelves, window shutters, and gable features. The next slide shows all 4 elevations of one of the designs. The 2 images at the bottom show the same side elevation, except that the image at the bottom left shows the side elevation has been provided with an additional vertical siding feature in order to further enhance any side elevations that are visible from street frontages. This slide shows the larger floor plan of the 4-bedroom design. The bottom floor is on the left, showing the garage, kitchen, living area, plus 1 bedroom and a bathroom. There's 3 bedrooms plus a loft area located on the 2nd floor. The Planning Commission provided comments on the project during early design review, and subsequently the plan was reduced by 1 unit to provide more recreation area. 2 more street parking spaces were provided. Changes to the grading plan helped reduce the height of the retaining wall on the north side of the project, and architectural improvements were made. The project was reviewed under CEQA, and a mitigated negative declaration was circulated for public review from April 5 through April 25 of this year. The project is subject to mitigation measures specified in the MND and included in the project conditions. On May 15th, by a 5-0 vote, the Planning Commission recommended that the City Council approve the project with 2 additional conditions to ensure that the project conditions do not allow for modification of the parking management plan, and to require the applicant to pay 100% of the cost, estimated at $65,000, for traffic signal modifications and off-site improvements at Buena Vista Drive and South Melrose Drive. Staff's recommendation is that the council adopt a resolution approving the project's mitigated negative declaration, introduce and adopt a city council ordinance approving the zone change from E1 Estates Residential to RM10 Multi-Residential Zone for the property located at 1525 Buena Vista Drive, APN 169-22010, and adopt a resolution approving the site development plan, tentative subdivision map, and condominium housing permit for the proposed 44-unit condominium project. Staff and the applicant is available to answer any questions, and with the council's permission, the applicant also wishes to make a presentation.
Okay, I would call Lester Tucker with MLC next to make a presentation. Hold on. Try it now.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay. Good evening, Mayor Ritter and council members. My name is Lester Tucker. I'm the Vice President of Planning for MLC Holdings. I'm thrilled to be here tonight to share our new single-family community proposal with you on Buena Vista Drive. I'd first like to thank staff for the great presentation, both here and at the Planning Commission hearing. John, Chris, Sam, and the rest of the development and engineering departments have done a really good job, not only working on processing this project, but helping us make the project better. And so for that, I appreciate your guys' efforts and hard work on this. I really believe it's going to be a great community, a great asset to the city, of which they definitely assisted in the design. I'm going to keep my presentation pretty brief. I just want to start with a couple of background notes quickly about MLC Holdings and Meritage Homes. Meritage is a national public home builder with nearly 300 new communities across the U.S. We're known as the most energy efficient and green-minded builder of all the public builders. We have a nearby community which is just finishing up. It's about 3.5 miles east of here off of Monte Vista Road called Quintessa. We also have an actively selling community in Carmel Valley and lots of communities in LA, Orange, and Riverside counties that are currently open. MLC is Meritage Land Company. I know it's a very unique acronym. We're the front-end land use entitlement group for Meritage Homes. We work with the best cities in coastal California to identify and vision repurposing underutilized properties and bringing opportunities to deliver the American dream to more people. We're working on over about 1,500 or 1,600 land use entitlements units in California at this time. Here's a picture of the site plan of the community, a bird's eye view similar to what Chris showed earlier with the new community overlaid on it. I have a few images just to illustrate the quality of the project and neighborhood that we're proposing. I'll just scroll through quickly here. This is the only public entry, as Mr. Winters mentioned. The other entry or ingress egress is for emergency purposes only, and that's part of the traffic mitigation in order to keep only one point of ingress and egress onto Buena Vista Drive from the new community. This people here on the slide here they're walking to pick up their pizza at Nucci's or head over to Albertsons there on Melrose. Here's just a street scene of 2 different elevational styles, Spanish craftsmen, just to illustrate. Each house does have a 2-car garage, 2-car attached garage, and a 2-car capacity in every driveway. Amenities are important to the neighborhood, amenities are important to the city, and we've done a really good job of incorporating all the design elements that are required per the city's ordinances. This is the outdoor dining and barbecue area. Includes plenty of tables and chairs, a shade structure, and a lot of accent paving to enhance the area around the playground there. This is the open space play area with the entry portal trellis, a tot lot, turf area, as Chris had mentioned. And one thing that didn't make it in the staff report, this is a good place to take a selfie, apparently. I've talked to my architect about what that guy's doing there with his phone. I'm going to get into the project specifics, but I'll be brief because Chris did cover a lot of this in his staff report. Importantly, though, I want to highlight that approval of this project implements the vision that's found in the city's general plan housing element. This is exactly the kind of thing that it calls for. Townhomes would be allowed under what it's calling for in the housing element, but we're not doing townhomes. They're called condominiums only by name. In reality, this is a single-family detached neighborhood. We took all the comments from the early design review and staff really to heart. We implemented changes to improve the project. The results are a great little community that exceeds the required open space and parking requirements in the city and provides an attainable new housing opportunity for first-time and first move-up buyers. The project, and maybe this is one of the more meaningful things, also includes meaningful traffic mitigation measures that will have a positive impact. Most importantly, we met and discussed this plan regularly with our neighbors, both adjacent and in the community, and the community associations, whether it was the Shadow Ridge HOA, the South Vista Community Association. We spent a lot of time and a lot of shoe leather out in the streets, making sure that the people who live here had a hand in bringing this project together and in the design of this project. And we're very proud of what we've been able to put together. And I think you'll hear from a lot of residents. I know you've received a lot of letters about our outreach and in support of this project. I think nearly 20 businesses and homeowners have recently sent in letters in support of this project. Again, quickly, we exceed the required open space for the project, 19,000 square feet required, 33,000 square feet combined required. We also exceed the parking, but a picture of a parking stall is just not good enough to show on a slideshow. Early design review. We'll just kind of skip over this. In short, we provided more open space, more architectural enhancements, more parking, and in mitigated traffic, all the things that we were asked to do as part of the early design review. Speaking of traffic, I want to really get into that because that's one of the things we hear about the most. We understand listening to our neighbors and listening to the stakeholders is how to get projects approved. Otherwise, we wouldn't be successful in doing our jobs here. And I think we've done a good job of demonstrating that. The conditions of approval here require that we pay impact fees to the city in the amount of $239,000 for traffic. In addition, there's a requirement to pay an additional $20,000 toward intersection improvements at Mar Vista and Thibodaux. The conditions from staff also require a lengthening of the left-hand turn lane to allow for more stacking of cars on Buena Vista Drive to make that left-hand turn. On top of that, we went and seeked out with staff and with our own engineers an opportunity to make a difference at that intersection. Not something that was conditioned, but something that we wanted to try to do to be a good partner with the city and a good partner with our neighbors and a good builder for our future homeowners. So on top of the conditions, we went and we found an opportunity to improve the traffic signal at Buena Vista and Melrose. I'll show you a little bit in a moment of how that's going to work, but the dedicated left-hand turn lane onto Melrose, basically from Buena Vista or from the retail center, is something that's important. So you'll be able to head, here's a slide of it. I'm not sure if everybody can see that very well, but you'll basically be able to head from Buena Vista Drive here in a dedicated left turn movement with no through traffic going this way and get out of Albertsons, which is, it's troublesome sometimes. It's very busy to make this left-hand turn out of Albertsons onto to Melrose towards the 78. So You'll be able to have free flow of traffic left in the morning down to RBV High and towards Carlsbad, as well as out of that retail center. The light will then queue, and it'll be the straight traffic and the right turn traffic. In working with the city engineer, we prepared a cost estimate. They acknowledged the cost estimate, and we agreed to pay $1,500 per home towards the installation of that traffic signal. And we're also willing, I want you guys to know, to make the payment up front. We'd like to get the payment made at grading permit if the project is approved, so that work can happen earlier rather than later. And by the time we actually have move-ins in this community, if you so approve this, that can be already implemented. It's not often you get to say this, but approving this project will actually improve traffic in this intersection. Here's another graphic. I apologize for the crudeness of it. This is a depiction of the extension in blue here of the left-hand turn lane on Buena Vista Drive, an additional 300 feet, which arguably would add another 10 to 15 cars of stacking there, which could then clear with the dedicated left-hand turn lane. Again, this was an improvement. We sought to alleviate traffic in the area as one of the key drivers of this, and we're happy to do it. This is another depiction of the same thing there. Here's a quick video of our proposed community that I'll share with you, a fly-through. This is the detention basin, water quality area, enhanced pedestrian paving, just traffic calming features, the tot lot and barbecue area, and that's heading back down towards Melrose there. I'll summarize quickly. We know the importance of partnering with the neighbors, partnering with the community. I strongly feel we've demonstrated that, the efforts that we've made here. This is the right project with the right design in the right location, and it's for the right reasons by the right developer. And I strongly urge you to weigh all these benefits and vote to approve this project tonight. Thank you. My team is here if you have any questions, or I'm happy to address them as well.
Thank you. I have 9 speakers, so we have the speakers first. Okay, as I call you, I'll call 3 names. If you, the one will come up, and the 2 will stand over here on the side, so we can make it be a little quicker. So first will be Pastor Clark, followed by, just holding my glasses on, by Dan. That's like Dan Sayens, followed by Alan Jones.
Good evening. As I said, I'm Pastor Clark. I've been the pastor of the church the last 25 years. I've been there for all 45 years. Our church has been in existence, and we've been needing more space. We tried to do a project that didn't work out, but we believe that this is what God would have us do, sell this property, and then we're going to buy another building that's already in place with everything we need, with all the square footage we need. Right now our hands are tied. We can't even service the community as much as we would like to. And we feel this would make good use of the land as well. We've watched it turn in from the country into the city. Matter of fact, we were county at first. And they said, we've never heard of a church in the country before. And we lasted all these years in the country quite fine, but it's catching up. But we really like this project. I must say that the company has been more than gracious to us as a church, not in only their offer, but their willingness to be there to help us and work with us. And I represent the full unanimous vote of the church. We're all behind it. Most of them live here in town, and we want this project, if you would please consider it for us, so that we can better serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dan Sayens, followed by Alan Jones, followed by Anne Marie Quinn.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. What I basically want to say here is that I've been with the church since 1987. I got saved there in 1987, February the 8th. I've attended there regularly, except for deployments when I was in the Marine Corps. I was responsible for the maintenance of the property. So I know the buildings inside and out. I've had my difficulties with the gophers, but we were able to keep a good presence. This is a win-win situation for both the church and for the city. For this church, it gives us a bigger building. It allows us to grow. It removes a lot of the concerns that we have because the church is out in the open and it's not fenced in. And we have children there, we have a children's school and so forth. So this is a big thing for us. The building that we're looking at provides classrooms, and that's something that we really need rather than one open classroom for the senior grades. For Vista, as it's already been explained or described here, it's a win for you, for our city. Once we move out and they build those condos, that's more revenue for the city. It also will make the city to reach out to its limits and provide good residence for people that are moving in or buying new homes. Last, it will provide jobs. It will provide the economy growth that we need in the city, and to continue to improve on what the mayor has already started since she's been in office, and we certainly appreciate that. So, in short, it is a win-win situation. I've been in prayer that you will agree with us that this is a good thing for the city and for our faith and for those that attend. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Alan Jones, followed by Anne Marie Quinn, followed by Stacy Green.
Good evening, Council. My name is Alan Jones, and I'm a resident in North County, San Diego here. And I must tell you the story with a shirt. And,
yeah, so you're moving to Pahrump, huh?
I'm moving to Pahrump. But no, I ran into a couple in Escondido about 2 months ago, a lovely older couple. They had just had their first great grandbaby, and they were just absolutely ecstatic. They were there with their son, and they were just celebrating. And on the other hand, they were real sad because they indeed were having to move to Pahrump because they simply cannot afford housing here in North County, San Diego, nor even a place to even consider moving to. Which brings me to this project. And I know every one of you is totally aware of the severe shortage of homes and people to be able to move and relocate or even live here. They're having to move out to Temecula or Murrieta, and then again causing more commuting. We need more of these infill projects. And this is a phenomenal project. And this would also give my family members an opportunity to live here in North County, San Diego. And I'm asking you, as again a North County residents, to please approve this project. The timing's gone into it, and it's a good project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anne Marie Quinn, followed by Stacy Green, followed by Randall Wagner.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. I actually live in North County, but I work in Vista, and over 90% of my employees and coworkers all have to commute. Nobody can find communities like this to live in, or they can't afford to live in, so they lived in Escondido, which causes all the traffic. About a month ago, I actually have 8 children, and they need places to live because they're not going to live with me. And about a month ago, I got a call from my daughter-in-law, who was born and raised in Vista, lives here right now today with her parents, and went to Vista High, has a baby. She was going to be here tonight, but she couldn't because it was a feeding time for the baby. She called me a month ago and said, we have some bad news. We have to move to the Inland Empire because there's just no place for us to stay in Vista. She said, there's no fun upcoming communities. And I was like, wait a minute, there might be. So just on behalf of myself and her, born and raised here, and my 8 children, that have to be here. I really want them to stay and be in a community. So I just hope you guys understand that. And this is so needed, such a needed thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Green, followed by Randall Wagner, followed by Joseph Robbins.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Stacy Green, and I've been part of the real estate development community here in San Diego and especially in North County for over 20 years. And as you're all aware of, that we are in a housing shortage. But also for over 25, 30 years, I've been a mom, and my daughter's an educator, a teacher. She taught up here, but she moved away because she couldn't find adequate housing to meet the salary. But more importantly is you have a developer who has developed a well-designed community. I'm a baby boomer. We lived in single-family homes. Our children want to live in single-family homes. My daughter lives in 650 square feet. You know, in a rental, that's almost $2,000 a month. You're asking for a developer who has provided roads improvement, community improvement, to have workforce housing, meaning housing that's obtainable for our veterans, for our current military, our firefighters, our teachers, who can qualify for a loan at $600,000 or less at the price point they're providing for this community. That's really important to consider, because the longer it takes to get a project approved, the more the house costs. I think these folks have done an amazing job. And again, I've been a part of the community for building for over 25 years, and I see a sincere, well-financed, well-developed company coming before you today. And I implore you to approve this project and improve the life in your community. Thank you.
Thank you. Randall Wagner, followed by Joseph Robbins, followed by Victoria Beenan.
Good evening. Randall Wagner. Work in Vista, managing a small company off of Sycamore. Currently live in San Marcos, but prior to that, I lived 20 years in the Shadow Ridge area off of Longhorn and Shadow Ridge. My daughter went to Lake and graduated from RBV based on the staff's and applicants' information. I think this is exactly what the community needs, and I urge you to vote yes and approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Robbins, followed by Victoria Beenan, followed by Douglas Beenan.
Thank you, Mayor and the council members. I'm opposed to the project. I'm opposed to it based on the traffic that this project will generate. I live in Shadow Ridge. I look across the field to where this church is. Church has been my neighbor for over 30 years. And I see the morning traffic on Buena Vista headed to the high school through the whole year. Usually can't wait for the summer break. So I know that that two-lane road is not going to handle this traffic. I'm concerned because we recently approved Bormington down on the corner with the same number of homes, same number of bedrooms, using the same intersection. So I'm concerned that that intersection is already failing at certain times of the day. And when I read the reports, I've been in development my whole career, and the traffic studies don't talk to the failing intersection. That intersection fails. None of this impact fees being funneled that way. There's $65,000 is not going to do much to increase the flow through that Melrose and Buena Vista. So I appreciate what they've done. I'd love to look over there and see all these homes, but I don't know that the community's ready to deal with the traffic impact on that, the additional impact. I'm concerned that the people that are going to be in Warmington won't be able to make a left in the morning to go southbound. So I've got that. And there's one other thing that still is unclear. I think I heard at the planning meeting that there wouldn't be driveway parking. Like, I can't park in my driveway in Shadow Ridge because of CCNRs. I just want to make sure that we're not looking at 2 cars in every driveway and 2 cars in every garage. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Victoria Beenan, followed by Douglas Beenan.
Hello. It seems that we're in the minority of the people here because the church has a lot of people. And we're opposed to the project for much the same reasons as that last gentleman. Mostly it's the traffic. regardless of what they're doing to mitigate the traffic. It's not just the 47 condos that are going in for Warmington in that same area, but you've got the 19 that you just approved for Stonemark going in, which I realize is county. But that's also, and nobody ever talks about turning, I guess it would be left, it would be north on the Buena Vista, because everybody's going to want to go to 78. Are they going to go out and around and go on to Melrose to get to 78? Or are they going to cut back on the winding road of Buena Vista and Mar Vista to get to 78? You know which way they're going to go. And that is already impacted. People do not drive the speed limit. I sent you guys a letter. Perhaps you could lower the speed limit. That might work, although it appears that we do not have enough officers in Vista anymore to keep a handle on traffic, because in the morning, in the evening, at night, it's the same thing over in Shadow Ridge. There are people that are racing, and those roads are dangerous and they're curvy. So there's the whole traffic thing. And the church, when we were here at the last meeting with the Planning Commission, they had a traffic specialist say that the church had about 400 trips per day out of their church, and nobody said otherwise. Well, that's just not true at all. We go by there. I know people that live on Wesley Way, and she laughed when I told her that. She goes, they don't have that many people there anymore. Their school, they make it sound like they have a giant school. They do not. I'm not against them selling the property, but I feel like when everybody keeps bringing up this fits into the vision of Vista, well, that was zoned for 1 acre. Okay, I can see you even cutting it down to ½ acre or even quarter acre, but that's still, you're down at 15 houses instead of 44. And as far as the affordability goes, everybody's saying Vista needs more affordable houses. All you have to do is go on the internet, and under their price that they stated at 600, I think at the Planning Commission he said 500,000. Well, they went and told all the people on Wesley Way that it would start in the 600s to 650s would be the lowest prices. Those aren't affordable houses, and they're bigger than what we live in. And if you go on the internet, there's at least, I think there were 266, 270 houses that are under that price. So that bothers me. There's a lot of deception already going on. It's the wrong project for the area. It's too many houses.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Douglas Beenan?
Good evening. As my wife said, we live up on Sunset. All the mitigation that is suggested is for the intersection. Just like when Sunset was connected to Melrose, they said that everybody would travel Melrose to go north because it's a nice 4-lane road. They wouldn't cut across Sunset. Well, that's not the case, and all you have to do is go there or do your traffic studies and realize it's not. When I did a Google Maps about going from the train center to Rancho Buena Vista High School, the preferred way was Sunset to Buena Vista, cutting across, even though it was the same time supposedly to go to Melrose. But there are 2 extra traffic lights on Melrose going that direction, and people will always take a stop sign that is not monitored and enforced just to run it, as a lot of them do. There's a number of accidents that have been on those hairpin turns that no one's talked about. So right now, our concern is the traffic that is going to be heading north on Buena Vista out of the project. I suggested at the time, Buena Vista didn't used to go through. One way, if the intersection is going to be done so nicely, they could do the same thing they did at Miramar Drive, going into the Stonegate, and the road stops and there's a little break and it doesn't continue. If you did that on Buena Vista, if their studies are correct about everybody using this great intersection, how well it'll flow, then why don't we break the Buena Vista again right on the north side of the project, and so it doesn't go through anymore. That way the residents won't have to deal with the people cutting through. People will go across to Melrose and use the wider road. So right now, Vista has this bad history of not having the infrastructure in for the taxes they need, and end up selling and cutting up property so that they can get the fees. I don't think that's a great way to go, and I'm hoping that you guys give a better consideration about the traffic problems heading north on Buena Vista, because, like I said, with the extra communities, the extra projects you're thinking about putting there, it's going to be a lot higher than they suggest. Also, the current intersection right now is not flow through both directions. It is you either turn from Buena Vista or you turn from Albertsons. This doesn't go at the same time as the person said it was going to change it to. And they're going to lose some parking spaces. Shadow Ridge Heights apartments already parks on that road. And if you take the ones out when you restripe it in front of the Unitarian Church, they're just going to move down and park in those 7 spaces they're going to put in front of theirs. So I'm not sure that the algorithms that the Planning Commission is using is quite correct for what's actually going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That's our last speaker. So, Councilmember Franklin.
Well, I just want to thank everyone who took the time to be with us this evening, as well as those who took the time to write to the council to share their thoughts on this project. We certainly received a substantial amount of input from the community. The preponderance of it was favorable to the project, and I wanted to point out some observations about the project that I have. I think first and foremost, just about every complaint that, or every indication that was opposed talked about the traffic, and I think what's really important about what this developer has worked with the city, and really this is and I think the staff of the city for coming up with this proposal and asking the developer to fund it, is that the increase in serviceability of the intersection at Buena Vista and Melrose, even after considering the traffic impact of this project, will be a net improvement. And so in reality, for those that wait or travel through this intersection, though it will be modest, there will be an improvement in the serviceability of the intersection. And I think overall, I know that what we've heard as a council from the residents is that they want us to work to improve the throughput of traffic in the city. And so this being a net improvement, I think that that's a positive thing. These are obviously very high quality single family homes, detached. I counted the lots adjacent directly behind on Wesley Way, and Wesley Way is a more dense project, a nice project. I've got several friends that live there on Wesley Way. Nice homes there. This is going to be a really nice community, and I think really an addition. And I just, because the point was raised, I just wanted to make the point. You know, I don't ever consider impact fees because in the grand scheme of things, they're actually kind of insignificant. But it's not the impact fees which we need to pay for the impacts, but those aren't. They are never the dominant consideration in approving these. You know, we've got a $74 million general fund budget. These amounts over a long period of time aren't significant financial considerations, although it's always important to ask developers to pay the cost of the impacts that they create. And so I just wanted to mention that. But overall, what I see here is a really nice project for families that want to find a home in Vista. Some of them may already live in Vista and may see this as an upgrade opportunity. And for others, this is, you know, it is very tough. I've got a friend right now who's looking for a home in Vista, you know, already lived here and wants to come back. And there are not a great availability of homes. And this is not a high-density project. This is a really nice family feel to it, great amenities for the residents. And so for that reason, I'm supportive of the project. And I would offer that we would approve the ordinances drafted by staff and approve them and close the public hearing.
Deputy Mayor Aguilera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and appreciate Councilman Franklin's remarks. So last Friday, I had the opportunity to sit in a SANDAG meeting, and believe it or not, I was fighting against more homes, and not because I don't want more homes in Vista. It's the state was telling us that we needed to provide, as a county, 171,000 more homes in the next 8 years. Okay, so Mr. Conley and his peers throughout the county had agreed to a number of 116,000 to accommodate the state's numbers. So anyways, long story short, we were outvoted. You know, I know how people in North County feel about, sprawl and density and that. But that number's real. And there's actually a state bill that's going through, or possibly going through the state, SB 35, that could require us to meet our RHNA numbers. For right now, RHNA doesn't have a lot of teeth, so it's just a recommendation. But we do still have to accommodate through our general plan, I believe, or our housing element, and do the zoning. But I bring this up mostly because it's a problem that many of the speakers spoke about here, in that there's not enough housing. There's a lot of business in Vista, in our business park. We have, I believe, the largest business park in North County. Once Carlsbad builds theirs out, they might surpass us, but I mean, we're big. So a lot of people will need to work there. I live in North Vista, and in front of my home, people from Riverside, basically Murrieta, Temecula, Rainbow, all over Riverside County are coming down to come to work. And a lot of those people can't afford to live in Vista or any of the neighboring cities. And I've spoken to many people anecdotally and heard the same stories. I have my own kids who are growing up. They're not quite ready to buy homes, but they will be hopefully in a few years. And, where are they going to live? So every time I look at one of these projects, I think about the people I've spoken to, my own family, and all the cars I see on the road every morning when I go to work. And I know people don't like to believe that building homes in your city reduces traffic, but as one of the gentlemen was speaking earlier here about the traffic to the school, the families that live in these homes are going to be able to walk to that school and to the project that's going to cross the way as well. A lot of our traffic, you'll probably notice right now, is because of schools. And you'll notice right now in the summertime, there's not as much traffic as there was just a month ago when all the schools were in. We have a lot of different school things going on with charter schools and people not having to go to their home schools anymore, so everybody's driving around. But this is a great opportunity for those kids to be able to walk. And we're not that far from the business park as well. So I think it's going to reduce traffic in a very small way. I do understand that, but I think it's very helpful to that. Of course, we've already talked about the mitigation that the project's going to do, so we really appreciate that. That is a busy intersection for everybody. And I also like, the sidewalks, the improvements that we're going to make, widening the road. I think there's a lot more positives here. And, I am looking at this long term, and this is just going to be a small step in the right direction to providing some affordable housing. And I agree, $600,000 doesn't sound like it's an affordable house, but that is the reality today. The homes with bigger lots and bigger properties and bigger homes, developers are telling me they have to start out at $750,000 to $800,000 to be profitable on a quarter acre. Okay, not a half acre, on a quarter acre. I mean, people can't afford that. So over time, this is going to help, I think, the housing crisis, but we got a long ways to go. As the state has told us, 171,000 homes have to be built in this county in the next 8 years. So for that, I will be seconding the motion.
Councilmember Green.
Awesome. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and fellow council member. I sat in with a developer several times here and was the anti-development guy, no traffic, no traffic, no traffic, and just pounded away until they came up with a solution for traffic. I've been driving that road on Buena since a very long time. I graduated from Rancho 20 plus years ago, and I did take that road to Rancho Buena Vista High School every day. Right now I drive it every day to my boot camp, so I'm very familiar with the road. Lester and Moses, I appreciate you being green-minded. Hey, what's up, green? Like it? But one thing I wanted to do is kind of check the developers. You know, they said that they knocked on every door on Wesley Way, and I went out and I knocked on every door on Wesley Way. I gave them all a letter, put my cell phone down. I was able to speak with 10 residents on Wesley Way. I'm happy to say that everyone that I spoke with, except for 2 people who had just recently moved in, did speak with you guys. So not only did they speak with you once, but they spoke with you multiple times. And for me, that's a good thing. I was pleasantly surprised that the people who are going to be most impacted by this development weren't freaking out about it at all. They were actually very happy that they were going to build a nice wall behind them. They knew there was going to be some traffic remediation done, and they were happy with what was going to happen with the property values. They did say that the developer told them it was going to be priced between in the mid to high fives, so $549.9 to $599.9 was what they said. Unfortunately, in Southern California, that is entry-level housing these days. We rent out 2-bedroom apartments in our brand new apartments here for close to $2,500 a month, if you could imagine. And a mortgage payment on $599 is right about $3,600 per month with about $18,000 down, and that's entry level in Southern California. So number one, I wanted to make sure that the community knows that we did do a lot of work with this developer. I think I speak with everybody on the council here. We met with them a lot. We pounded home the problem with traffic. We are listening to the community. Nothing has been done at that intersection in the 22 years that I've been driving down that intersection to actually have a developer come in and want to spend money on that intersection. I am aware of the left turns, how they don't sync right now. Since the developer is buying a new light system, it's actually going to allow the left turn syncing, which in the mornings I wait there. And a lot of times when that school's in, that Albertson traffic is a pain in the butt. So I do feel like what you're going to do is going to benefit that intersection. You know, I don't know if it'll be a huge difference, but it's definitely going to be a net positive, which I think, as Councilmember Franklin said, is a really good thing. One thing I did want to point out that the residents said is that on the peak times, and maybe with the longer queuing for the left-hand turn, it would stop, but they have a problem actually turning left out of Wesley Way onto Buena Street. And I spoke with my city manager about it. I don't know if there's any way to stripe maybe like a keep clear section, because when those people are coming home from work, they might need to turn left into their development too, as they need to turn left out. So I don't know what the cost is to stripe a little, you know, it's not going to keep anybody out per se, but I know when I fill those little sections in, I feel bad if it says keep clear and I'm the jerk in that intersection. So anything we could do to kind of alleviate that for them, because I'd like to think somebody's going to be real nice and let them in. I don't know if you've ever tried to turn left out of anywhere before, but there's not a lot of nice drivers now. So if we could maybe have an option for the people on Wesley Way to get out of their community at peak times, that's something I definitely like the developer to look at in addition. One thing I also wanted to say is that based off of the houses per acre that's on Wesley Way over there, if we use that same acreage and 9 per acre for this, we could actually put 53 units on, not 44. So the developer has done really good in cutting the number of homes to accommodate where we're at with our zoning, and it does adhere to our general plan. This is actually a good project, and I feel like it sets a new precedent for developers in our community, that when they come in here, they're not going to just have to come in and, you know, meet our general plan and the numbers. They're going to have to say, hey, we have a community that we're affecting, and how is this going to benefit the community? And I think that's how we're looking at it, is how do these projects that come before us benefit Vista? And this particular project, Moses and Lester, thank you guys for your work on it. I truly believe, as a Vistan who drives this road every day, who's going to continue to drive it every day, who comes all over the town, that this is going to be a great project for our city. So thank you, and thank you all for the work that you've done as well. And with that, I guess don't need to third the motion, but call for the vote and we'll be good.
Okay, call for the vote. That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. So next, moving on to our second public hearing. This is a public hearing to consider the terms of a disposition and development affordable housing agreement with Community Housing Works, South Santa Fe Housing Associates LP, and to consider a real property sale and exchange agreement. So do you want to just wait for a second before we do that? And wait for the room to clear. Our Assistant Manager, Allie Zimmerman, is going to introduce the item.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. With me tonight is Amanda Lee, our Housing Programs Manager, and she will be providing the staff report.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. For your consideration tonight is a Disposition and Development Agreement, a DDA, with Community Housing Works, CHW, to develop a mixed-use workforce housing community along South Santa Fe Avenue between Guajome and Terrace Drive. The purpose of the agreement is to define the timing and commitments, including funding for the development. The proposed development consists of 45 units. However, the DDA enables CHW to apply for a special use permit, which would allow development up to 65 units. The special use permit and land use approvals will proceed through the normal community development planning process. The proposed 45-unit development contains 16 one-bedrooms, 16 two-bedrooms, 3 12-bedroom units, and 1 manager unit. The units have restricted rents for a minimum of 55 years, and the rents will range between $491 a month to $1,227, depending on family size, income level, and the size of the unit. The residents will have to meet income eligibility requirements, and leasing preferences will be provided first to Vista residents, then to veterans and artists. Veterans and artist preferences will be weighted equally. CHW is proposing to use 9% tax credits through the State of California's Low-Income Tax Credit Program. This program enables affordable housing proponents to raise equity through the sale of tax benefits to investors. Additionally, CHW is requesting a financial contribution from the Commission and will obtain a permanent loan. The private property site is owned by the Commission and will be leased to CHW. At the end of the lease term, the property and improvements will revert to the Commission. The financial contribution from the Commission is $143,333 per unit, not to exceed $8.6 million, and is conditioned on CHW's ability to secure tax credits and entitle the property. CHW intends to apply for 9% tax credits in July 2019 and will be notified in the summer of 2019 if they have been awarded the tax credits. This process is very competitive and may take several rounds before credits are awarded. If successful on the first application, CHW should be under construction by March 2020. We are very supportive of this development because it will provide affordable living to our community and aligns with the revitalization of efforts along the South Santa Fe corridor. Currently, the property consists of vacated business properties. To facilitate the proposed development, the current structures will be demolished. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are available to answer questions.
And we have representatives from Community Housing Works that are here with a presentation as well, if you would like to hear that.
All right, I'm going to call Mary Jane from Community Housing Works first. Are you on? We need somebody to turn her. Hold on, she's going to turn you on here.
Try. There we go.
There you go. Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members, and staff. I am Mary Jane Jagodzinski. I'm Vice President of Development with Community Housing Works, which you know is a 30-year-old nonprofit. And let's see, how do we cue our... All right, I'm just going to pause for half a second. While the PowerPoint is coming up, I want to, first of all, thank you for this opportunity today. We've been working closely with your staff for about 2 years now, and they're really excellent, and we appreciate that great work. We have a number of Community Housing Works team here, all the way from the development end, all the way through operations and resident services. Mark Welk is the project manager, Elisa Flores, assistant project manager. We have Chris Johnson, who's the senior asset manager. So they're in charge of overseeing operations. And we have our head of resident services, Jorge Kwame, and Fernanda Kivis, who is the resident services person for this area.
Technical difficulties.
Momentarily.
Momentarily. Someone will figure it out.
Wardrobe, just technical.
Where's Kathy? We need you, Kathy.
And we have a flash drive, if that would be.
Stuck in a PDF, so just in the next slide, that's not going to work because it's not on PowerPoint. You know what I mean? So if you say next slide, they'll advance it for you.
Next slide.
When it comes up.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. There we go. Thank you. All right. Next slide. Just briefly, next one from there. There we go. As you know, Community Housing Works has been part of the Vista community for a number of years. And just a reminder, 3 years ago, we completed our North Santa Fe development. You know, I'm most proud, I think, when, and this has happened a number of times, when a city or a resident comes to me at the end and they say, you did what you said you were going to do. And that's, yes, of course. And what I just want to say, when we finished North Santa Fe, we were within $19,000 of our RFP numbers. And that some of our good work, but also our local contractor, Sun Country Builders, John Allsweet, who is here as well. So that's very important to us to represent that. Let me try the next. There we go. It works. All right. We have two other communities, just for your information. Cedar Nettleton, which is near Emerald, between Cedar and Nettleton. That we resyndicated, renovated in the last year, and we fully repaid all of the city's principal and interest, the loans in that project of about $2.5 million. So thank you for that, and we made good on it. So that was entirely repaid. Los Robles is a development that has no city funding, but as you can see on the bottom, we did some very excellent renovation, both of the common areas and of the apartments a couple of years ago. So obviously, as Amanda said today, we are here to talk about the Paseo Artist Village and the vicinity. You see the yellow area, as Amanda showed also, it's two separate sites, and there's kind of a donut hole in the middle, and that really makes us be more creative. So you'll see some areas that we're looking at solving that. Clearly, this is a continuation of the next leg of the city, tying together the wonderful work that's already happened in the downtown on Main Street and is coming down Santa Fe. These are two photos of the site currently, one looking right by Guy Lumber at Guajome, and the other kind of at the other side of the site looking toward Main Street. And you can see that, you know, the site doesn't look the way the rest of Vista is looking, and it really is ready for renovation, or revitalization, let me say, revitalized. So that will be where we are. This is that donut hole I talked about is about 50 feet long, and you'll see how we are proposing to make some screen there. It's not this yellow, I'm just highlighting the area that we're looking at for screen. The site has some challenges of high groundwater, shoring, because there is a box culvert that runs along Mercantile. So a number of those kinds of factors that are costly, but that's kind of what infill is. Our architect, Mark Steele of MW Steele, is with us. Again, these are conceptual. We will go through the entire community and entitlement process, but so you can kind of see how we're looking at this. I think there's really three goals. And as one of the earlier speakers says, how will it benefit Vista? So number one is, I think, being a cornerstone of this new part of the street development, creating a sense of place and setting the tone for how I believe the city wants the rest of the development to proceed, and saying, yeah, we like this. You can see that the challenge created an opportunity. Again, it's looking connected along the street with some sort of screen wall that we will be installing. This next photo is really, or this next rendering, I should say, is really showing how I think the intent is how it will help create a neighborhood in what is the Arts and Culture District and activate the street. Because part of what we have here is a courtyard. We have plans for an artist gallery, both for resident artists and also open for community. So this is a no-charge place. But something I think that, again, creates that sense of place, that buzz that will attract pedestrian traffic and bring people in to see this and go to the restaurant. So now the second thing, what does this do for Vista, is bringing in some additional retail. We have one of the, I think, premier brokers in San Diego on our team. I believe he's sent a letter, and he's been very much part of our design efforts. Before I joined Community Housing Works almost 15 years ago, I spent 16 years in commercial market rate development, office, retail with a national developer, and doing institutional quality investment. And so from that, I at least know some of the hot buttons. And the one is visibility is important for retail. We've got a corner. We've got the signage planned that will be tasteful, but a business wants a sign. And the apartments are set back above it is our intent so that the retail pops. And obviously, the right market fit and the right broker are very important. Another big area is also visible retail parking. And the bottom photo shows our intent for designated parking just for retail to make sure it's successful and maximize the corner, which will have this new roundabout. And then the third element is really affordable, or I'm going to call it workforce, as your staff did. And one of Community Housing Works, part of our mission is that opportunity begins with a stable home. You've got to have a stable home to be able to go to work, to do well in school, to live, to better yourself, and to do next generation success. So we've already said local preference and artists and veterans. Vista has a long tradition of being an art center, and you have many artists here that you don't want to get priced out of this area. They're part of the fabric of the community and the downtown. So that was the intent, that there be a preference for artists, some of whom don't make a lot of money, obviously, and may need this helping hand until they do better and establish themselves. We've provided, because it always comes up, what are the incomes and what are the rents. So you provided a table showing incomes on a one-bedroom could qualify you moving in at about $19,600 for a family. And at the top end of a three-bedroom with the highest income would be typically a family of four or so at $48,000. And you can see the rents. The data we got was rents for a one-bedroom could be $2,000 up to maybe $2,600. But I am not going to argue with Councilmember Green. You said two bedrooms are going for about $2,500, and I know that is also the case. So $2,500 compared to that range of 500 to 1,000. So you'll have perhaps, a veteran who deserves to stay in the community they grew up in. They may be somebody working at the grocery, or it may be, again, the artist. It may be the artist and the waiter doing this. So anyway, that's what we believe we're contributing to VISTA for that. Again, this just kind of reiterates a few of the things Artists Gallery have talked about. This is located midway between two Sprinter stations, and it will be greened, as all of our developments. Circulate San Diego has already got it in their program as a certification. And, a couple of years ago, Deputy Mayor Aguilera, I believe, was at Circulate San Diego, where the city and we as partners received a very prestigious award from them for North Santa Fe. So next steps, obviously community outreach. We'll be knocking on doors and having community meetings. Then we do our design entitlement submittal, go to Planning Commission. We need entitlements in our hand before we can apply for tax credits. So that keeps us on track and on schedule. I know that we have several Community Housing Works residents here, and one of them, unfortunately, couldn't make it. It's a gentleman, Hendrickson Turner. I believe he provided a letter, should be in your packet, but he lives at Cedar Nettleton. Several years ago, he and his family were burned out of their home. I don't know where they lived. And they had nothing, and they had to start from scratch. And they moved into Cedar Nettleton. He is a veteran, and he and his family are thriving, and he said some really touching things. So, if you haven't seen that, I think it provides some good perspective on who lives there. And thank you for your time, and we're here for any questions.
Thank you. I have several speakers, so do you want to hear the speakers? Okay. We'll start with Raul Rodriguez. He'll be followed by Prisciliana Fuentes, followed by Fatima Ashhaq.
Good afternoon. Thank you, everyone, for your time. I'm here today actually on behalf of my family who are homeowners here in Vista and could not make it today. They are big supporters of this project, not just for affordable housing, but in particular Community Housing Works. And I can attest firsthand on just the quality of attention, of care, and of service, in the management of their properties to the services and programs that they offer their residents. I have here with me Raul, who can attest firsthand on the resident services and the programs. He is a resident with CHW here in Vista. Raul Rodriguez.
So my name is Raul Rodriguez. I'm 33 years old, and I work as a dog handler. I'm currently a resident at North Santa Fe Apartments, and I lived here since it first opened. I am a disabled adult and grown up in foster care and group homes, and I never had a home of my own. I grew up since birth in the foster care system until I got out at 18, where I was then placed in a state-run group home where I was given a bedroom and had my life ran for me by the group home manager. After a few years, I became frustrated with not being allowed to make my own decisions, so I asked my job coach if I could get my own place. I eventually got independent living services where they assisted counselor help find a low-income apartment, which happened to be North Santa Fe. So I worked with my counselor and learned how to manage my own money, pay my own bills, and needed a chance, and North Santa Fe and support services provider gave me that. North Santa Fe has made it possible for me to live alone and be independent for the first time in my life. No group homes, no foster homes, no roommate, just me in my very own place, because North Santa Fe, low-income housing, my lifelong dream of having my own place was finally able to be achieved. My life is so much better now. Thanks for the opportunity provided by North Santa Fe. There's a computer room? No. Oh, the computer rooms and programs like the facility fitness training that CHW office residents is also a great help to me in my life. Thank you for making North Santa Fe a home for me. Please support the proposal for the new project so that others who need homes can contribute to their communities. Will have a place to live. Thank you, Raul.
Thank you. Prisciliana Fuentes, followed by Fatima Ashhak, followed by Maya Rosas.
Hello, my name is Fernanda Aceves. I work with CHW, providing resident services here in Vista, and I will be doing some of the translating for Pris.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Pris Fuentes y vivo en North Santa Fe Apartment en Vista. Me siento muy orgullosa y muy bendecida por vivir en un hogar de bajo costo.
Good evening. My name is Pris Fuentes, and I live in North Santa Fe Apartments in Vista. I feel very proud and very blessed to live in these affordable homes.
Antes de vivir ahí, mi familia y yo vivíamos en una situación muy difícil. Tuve que compartir mi vivienda con personas extrañas, exponiendo a mis hijos al peligro. Además, tenía que hacer trabajo extra vendiendo comida para poder así ahorrar un poco de dinero y ayudar a mis hijos a continuar sus estudios en la universidad.
Before living here, my family and I lived in a very difficult situation. I had to share my housing with strange people, exposing my children to danger. In addition, I had to work selling food so that I could save a little money and help my children continue their studies at the university.
Mi vida cambió y la de mi familia desde el día en que nos movimos a vivir en North Santa Fe. Gracias a Dios, pudimos ayudar más a mi hijo que estaba en la universidad. Su sueño y lo nuestro era verlo graduado.
My life changed and that of my family since the day we moved into North Santa Fe. Thank God we were able to help more my son who was in college. His dream and ours was to see him graduate.
Ahora me siento muy feliz porque mi hijo ya se graduó de la universidad. Mi segundo hijo acaba de terminar su primer año en la universidad y mi tercer hijo va en la preparatoria.
Now I feel very happy because my son has already graduated from college, my second son just finished his first year in college, and my third child is in high school.
Por tal motivo, solicito y ruego que ustedes aprueben este proyecto, ya que es muy triste mirar a tantas familias y niños sin hogar, niños que no tienen lo necesario para vivir. Les falta comida, ropa y sobre todo amor y cariño, porque papá y mamá no tienen otra opción más que trabajar múltiples trabajos para pagar su renta, que es muy alta.
For that reason, I request and pray that you approve this project, as it is very sad to look at so many families and children without a home, children who don't have the necessities to survive, who are in need of food, clothing, and especially love and care because mom and dad have no other option than to work multiple jobs to pay the rent that is too high.
Gracias por su atención y esperando tengan una experiencia positiva.
Thank you for your attention, and I am hoping for a positive response.
Thank you. Fatima, followed by Maya Rosas, followed by Lev Gershman.
Hello, Honorable City Council. My name is Fatima Ashak. I'm with Vista Community Clinic's Tobacco Control Program. We would like to acknowledge Community Housing Works for their affordable housing properties, including the North Santa Fe apartments in Vista being 100% smoke-free. According to the Center for Disease Control, CDC, secondhand smoke causes more than 7,300 lung cancer deaths and nearly over 34,000 premature deaths from heart disease each year in the U.S. So we'd like to thank Community Housing Works for being leaders in creating healthy housing options for families and protecting residents from secondhand smoke exposure. Thank you.
Thank you. Maya Rosas, followed by Lev Gershman, followed by Angela Nugent.
Good evening. My name is Maya Rosas. I'm the Policy Director with Circulate San Diego. And Circulate San Diego is a nonprofit which works towards making our region more walkable, bikeable, transit-friendly, and also supports vibrant, healthy neighborhoods. Circulate San Diego runs a program that we just rebranded from the Move Alliance certification to the Circulate Mobility certification. The Circulate Mobility certification is similar to a LEED certification program, but it is available for transit-oriented smart growth projects such as the Paseo Artist Village project. We bring together a committee to review Circulate Mobility certification applications. And members of the review committee include local experts in smart growth planning, including planners, developers, urban designers, and traffic engineers. The Paseo Artist Village project went through this process and received the Circulate Mobility certification based on the following benefits to the community and its future residents. Paseo Artist Village will invigorate Vista Village through more economic and community stimulation. The project is within a 5 to 10 minute walk to restaurants, the movie theater, grocery stores, and other local shops, which residents will be able to support and frequent regularly. The project is located near the Vista Transit Center, which provides transportation options with both the Sprinter and 4 Breeze bus lines with 15-minute headways. Paseo Santa Fe will include a bike storage room in the parking garage, and it will be a vibrant project consistent with the vision of the Paseo Santa Fe District Corridor. For all of the above reasons, I urge you to support and approve this DDA. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lev Gershman, followed by Angela Nugent.
Good evening, council members and staff. My name is Lev Gershman. I'm managing partner of Tideline Partners. I've appeared in front of you before, and I'm here to express my support for Community Housing Works and their team for this project. It's really exciting to see the evolution in downtown. We've long been committed, and I have a personal history with downtown Vista, and it's excellent to see that all of your commitment to the vision and the hard work and the hard decisions that you're making are paying off. This is the next phase of opportunity. There's a lot of dollars being invested. There's a great vision with a specific plan. We met with Community Housing Works with Mary Jane and her team. They've got a great team. They've got a great general contractor who's going to deliver a quality product. They've got a focus on the art and an intention to deliver a project that serves that vision. They have the opportunity to deliver retail through the financing mechanisms that are particularly available to them as affordable housing developers. As you know, we are focused on developing a market rate project in the corridor, and we're looking forward to collaborating with CHW to create collective energy and infuse the corridor and bring this vision to life. So I urge you to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela?
Good afternoon and evening. I'm Angela Nugent, and I'm actually a resident of North Santa Fe community. And you've already heard from one of my dear friends and neighbors, Press. And I have to say, me habla español es poquito, but proud mothers share a language that doesn't need to be translated. Living in affordable housing, coming from a different circumstance that caused me to get there, I don't think is the point. I never think that the cause is greater than the cure. And stable home environments that make families be able to change whatever their circumstances are, that's a goal. And that's also a reality. And to some, it may be a dream. To some, it may be a circumstance that they have to overcome, but the outcome is the same. Stabilize your home, focus on your family, and move forward in whatever situation you're in. Now, I have to say I'm a passionate Vista resident that doesn't believe in fluff or fake or anything else like that. So an artist element, what does that really mean? Why do we need it? Well, I Google searched something that I'd like to share with you. I looked up poor famous artist, El Greco, Emily Dickinson, Claude Monet, Henry David Thoreau. I could name drop all night, I'm sure, because artists have to be artists. And most artists, especially the most beautiful ones, the most prolific, are the ones that have expressed their situation or their pain or their circumstances or the beauty they've seen through an art form. A holistic healing environment is one that offers people in the community, whether it's children, veterans that are going through therapeutic rehabilitation, an opportunity to use art as a vehicle to move forward and focus on what they feel is a healing outlet. I think this project has merit, and I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are all of our speakers, so I'll turn it over to Deputy Mayor Aguilera.
Well, must be my birthday or something, because got a lot of positive people here today. So it's great to see all this support for housing in our city. This is a very exciting project. It's going to be a beautiful project, as the previous speaker just mentioned, and that's what makes it really exciting. Is it's going to be different from some of the other projects that are going on in our city. I appreciate CHW answering all my questions. They've worked with us in the past. They knew what to expect, so there wasn't a whole lot to change, but they made some adjustments to that. And one of my questions was how will the retail work? Because that's probably the biggest question that people in the community have. One of our other projects is not making it work right now, but they assured me that they've got that under control. And it sounds like Mary Jane has the experience, and some other people on her team, I believe, also have the experience. So they answered that question by making it pop, making it stand out. And we talked about the parking. And, my biggest question early on was, will the art theme work? And it does sound like there's a need here. And Vista does have a lot of art, a lot of artists that live here. And I think you're right. Some of these artists, we always talk about struggling artists. Well, they need a place to live as well. Affordable housing is something that we already have kind of discussed, but this is true affordable housing. This is not just making housing affordable. This is actual affordable housing. And, we get that question as council members in the community. Is that going to be another affordable housing project? And I think we just, as council members, need to speak out to these people a lot more and support this and make people understand who these people might be. We've heard from several people here, and I appreciate you all coming out and speaking your mind and telling us the good things that are happening at CHW. But, just this weekend, I had a family event at my home, and my cousin, I was asking him about his kids, how they're doing, and, it's the same old story. He's got one, sharing with a friend because he can't afford to live on his own, and it's not really the best circumstance. And then he's got another one that's living at home who's got a degree, has got all the education in that, but can't find a place to live, working and all that, but can't afford to live. And so these are, these, like I said, it's family members, it's neighbors and their kids. Those are the ones that are living there. I know I've met a couple of different people that live either at CHW or the Paseo Point place, and it's just people from Vista, and their kids or their workmates and their family are working there or living there. So I'm excited about this project. As Mary Jane stated earlier, I was proud to accept on behalf of the city an award for our affordable housing projects. And, I think the important part is we're changing people's lives by allowing a project like this to come in. And, it was one of the best ways to do that is also to kind of change our downtown as well. So it's going to be a positive addition to our downtown. We're going to, again, keep that spark going. So hopefully we'll continue to develop the rest of South Santa Fe. And I did read that letter from Hendrickson, I believe his name is, Turner. I mean, you have to read that letter if you haven't. It's a very touching letter. It's about somebody that was down on their luck and really turned things around by going to a project locally here in our city as well, and just letting us know how it's changed his life and gave him some dignity. So for that, I'll be supporting this project, and if you don't mind, I'll make a motion.
And close the public hearing.
And close the public hearing.
Okay, Councilmember Franklin.
I'm also supportive of this project. When I want to start by saying the progress that we've made on Paseo Santa Fe and in our downtown is something that I'm in all over the county every week, and in years past you'd tell people you're from Vista and you'd get one kind of a look, and that's changed a lot. And now what I hear when I tell people that I live in Vista is I hear people say, there's a lot of great progress there, and your downtown is really neat. And the vision, I wasn't a part of it. I was elected to the council after this, vision that's in the works now for more than a decade. And I have to say, I could see no reason not to support the continued development of this vision, because there's no doubt that Santa Fe was a blighted corridor and still is, and the end that hasn't been touched yet. And I think we're going to get the opportunity to talk tonight also about another project that is part of that projects like this are part of the catalyst for. These projects and the investment dollars that they've brought in have made possible undergrounding of utilities and improvements to the streetscape, and overall have created they've increased the surrounding property values, and they've incentivized the private development community to come in and build market rate. And so to the extent that there has been some concern about subsidized housing, there's a lot of quality market rate housing that follows these projects. But at the end of the day, the progress that we've seen in the downtown, and particularly on Paseo Santa Fe, would not have happened without the catalyst of these projects. The retail on the first floor of the first project that we did was not well thought out. I'm impressed with the retail. First of all, there's a more appropriate quantity of it. We didn't try and force too much in, and it's also accentuated with reserved parking, which was really needed. And I think it's going to work well, even if it does take some time to build and occupy. So overall, and the last thing I want to say is I kind of probably threw a curveball at the folks with CHW when I told them that I wanted veterans to have the same preference as an artist applying. I know that wasn't originally part of your plan, but I'm very grateful to you for including that in your plan. I want to see those who have served our country have an equal opportunity to be accommodated here, and we have so many fine veterans and military families in our community that was tremendously important, and I'm very grateful to you for including that in this program. So, and also wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to say I was very touched by some of the stories that those of you who came tonight to share brought forward. So thank you very much for bringing your stories. Those definitely bring to life the impact on families in our community that projects like this have. So with that, I would second your motion.
Okay. And I would just tell you, I'm excited to see this project go forward. South Santa Fe has been a long time coming, and several years ago, there was no hope for it. They said, that'll never change. And it was a real, when I first was on the council, I've been on the council a long time, it was very, not just blighted, it had crime and a lot of, what do you want to call it, bad people down there. So anyway, so I'm excited to see the change, and phase 1 is done, and phase 2 is coming, and I'm excited to see your project down there. So I'm going to thank all the people that came tonight. Thank all of you. We appreciate you coming, and your stories were very good and very helpful. So with that, I guess we'll cast our votes. That project passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. And that takes us to public hearing number 3. Thank you all for coming. We're going to lose all of our audience now. Okay, so that takes us to, you don't want to hear this anyway probably. This is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding the collection of delinquent 2017 weed abatement charges. So the public hearing is now open. Do I have any speaker slips?
Mayor, there are no speakers. Would you like a presentation?
No. Do you want a presentation?
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
I'd like to make a motion that we close the public hearing and approve the ordinance recommended by staff.
I'd like to second that.
Okay, please cast your votes.
For the benefit of the public, I guess we should say that these are technical items where we're placing citations for noncompliance with the city's code on the property tax rolls. And I just, if I could briefly just say thank you. We've got a few of these to do. Thank you to the city staff for pursuing code enforcement to make our city beautiful. Only by enforcing the code can we make sure that we maintain property values. So this is really important what we're doing, but it is sort of a technical and perfunctory thing, which is why we're going to speed through it, hopefully.
Thank you for that explanation, and that motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. So the next public hearing number 4, is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding the levy of delinquent fiscal year 2017-18 property-related administration citation charges. So the public hearing is now open, and I have one speaker here. So Norman, is it Levesque? Levesque?
Mayor, Councilman, staff, my name is Norman Levesque. I worked in this town in 1972 to about 1982. I was involved with the building of the Oak Meadows project, the 36 fourplex subdivision, and I also own at the present time 2 lots that have 21 garages on. I have received some fines, so to speak, from the code enforcement for my not running the project properly. The fines quote the code enforcement fines quote the zoning at the present time. The zoning on those are controlled by when they were built, the conditions of approval. I have asked repeatedly, in fact, from Mr. Johnson, when I wrote him a 5-page letter, I asked repeatedly for the code of 1985, the municipal code and the development code in 1985, also the conditions of approval that were enforced at that time for the building of those garages and what they were supposed to be used for. Mr. Feck previously had a sign that said, or sign and a lease that said, garages/storage. I was told that it was not available for storage. I changed my sign. I changed my DBA. I changed my leases. And I have presently some people who are not residents of the project at Oak Meadows. But the code enforcement situation is quoting a zoning ordinance that was created in 2003. And that should not be the one that is applied to the situation at the present time. I was negotiating with Mr. Winnie, who happens to be the assistant to Mr. Johnson, and I quickly found out that Mr. Johnson wrote a letter to me detailing out certain situations that were not in effect or should not have been in effect. And I would request the council to pull that $5,000 fine until we settle what is in effect. I've asked 6 times for the conditions of approval, and I have been told before the meeting with Mr. Winnie, or the
You wrap up.
before this meeting with Mr. Winnie, that the statements were too large to email, that I would have him at the meeting with him, and they never showed, they never were done, and I never gotten them.
Okay, sir, we'll check with Mr. Winnie. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Winnie?
Tony Winnie.
Tony?
Tony's our assistant to the city manager who's been dealing with Mr. Levesque.
Good evening, council members. A little bit of history on this case. Mr. Levesque received 7 citations starting in May of 2017, which totaled $4,935 for operating a commercial business in a residential zone. These are the storage units that Mr. Levesque was referring to. So we met with Mr. Levesque, and after he had received his citations, he had the opportunity to request an appeal of those citations within 30 days, which he did not do. So he received those 7 citations. In addition, he also received 2 collection notices in April of 2018 and November of 2017 via mail. Regardless, we did not hear from Mr. Levesque, and he did not file any appeals on those citations either. So staff did meet with Mr. Levesque in April of 2018 to discuss his storage business, but he did not mention the fines that had accrued to date when we met at that time. We had met with Mr. Levesque also as part of the owner meetings when we met with the owners of Oak Meadows in August of 2017 and March of 2018, but Mr. Levesque did not reach out to us until April of this year to discuss the citations. The documents that we did provide to him in those meetings included the development plans and also the building permits that were issued in 1990 for the parking garages. However, the parking garages that were authorized to be built were an accessory used to the apartments at Oak Meadows and not a commercial rental storage unit, since they are not allowed in residential zones. Mr. Levesque also applied for a business license to rent these storage units in 2008, but he was denied at that time. That was the last we had heard of him before our most recent contact in 2017. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilmember Franklin.
So the violation comes down to operating a commercial business in a residential zone?
Correct.
And was this ever a commercial zone?
No.
Okay. And my understanding from what I was briefed by staff is that we reached out to Mr. Levesque, and we asked him to make progress towards remedying the situation. What was he asked to do, and how did he fail in cooperating with the city's instructions?
So when we originally reached out to him, we had asked him to cease rental through those storage garages, since they were originally constructed as parking garages and not rental units. But we never heard back from him. We met in person 3 different times, but not until our most recent meeting in April did we come to a conclusion as to the operation for those storage units. However, those citations were issued starting in May of 2017 through, I believe, February of 2018.
And do we feel that Mr. Levesque is now in compliance with the law, or making substantial effort to be in compliance?
Yes, he has notified us that he has plans to only rent out those units to individuals living at Oak Meadows, which would align more closely with our current development code and our municipal code in terms of that being an accessory use to the apartments rather than a commercial business that would be rented out to anyone in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Can you clarify, is he currently in compliance, or he has plans to be in compliance?
He notified us just recently that he has plans to be in compliance.
And we feel he's dealt with the city in good faith?
We have not re-inspected to verify, but we plan to continue to work with him to ensure that he does.
Would it be possible, if it was the will of the council, to hold this as a collection matter, and will we lose the right to apply it to the property rolls if we don't take action tonight?
If you don't take action tonight on this matter, then we wouldn't have another opportunity to put it on the tax rolls until a year from now.
Would we have the ability at that time?
You would.
This is a matter of $5,000?
Yes, $5,400.
It would seem to give us some ability to persuade Mr. Levesque to be in compliance.
Well, I think, as Mr. Winnie stated, he's been receiving citations since 2017, and I don't think that has deterred him from continuing the practice. That is from a staff perspective.
There is another option as well. There's another additional $1,000 citation, which is not part of the action tonight, that has already been issued, but has not been placed on the property tax rolls yet. We would have to wait until next year because of the timing of that citation when it was issued in order to do that. So, if City Council chose to, they could choose not to place that $1,000 on next year's property tax rolls.
Deputy Mayor Aguilera.
Mr. Winnie, did the gentleman have a business license?
No, he did not. He had applied for one in 2008, but was denied because it was...
So he's been running this as storage, presumably since 1985. As he stated, that's what he thought he was entitled to, but he didn't have a business license?
It's quite possible.
I feel that, sir, you knew what you were doing. So I can't support you.
My thing, I think that the things that were issued have been issued in the past, so I don't have a problem with putting those on the tax record, and then we'll see where we go forward. But the citations of $5,000 is all stuff from the past when he was operating illegally, so that's my feeling on it. So if I don't hear any more comments. Councilmember Green?
There was a comment made that in 2003 the zoning ordinance was changed, and that's why he's being cited. Is that, I know that was the statement that the property owner made. Is that inaccurate? Were there any type of zoning changes in 2003 that triggered this?
No, the last zoning change that occurred was in 1982.
Okay.
Which created the RM zone. This is RM 15.
So bottom line, these are residential garages that were supposed to go with the development to be rented out with the units for the development, and they're currently being rented out as storage units per se as a commercial business without a license, and have been for 36 plus years.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Franklin.
I'd make a motion to close the public hearing and to adopt the ordinance as presented by staff.
I'll second it.
Okay, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. That moves us on to public hearing number 5. This is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding the collection of delinquent sewer service charges. Public hearing is now open. Do I have any speaker slips? Okay, I have no speaker slips, so I would entertain a motion. Oh, Councilmember Green, sorry.
I move that we close the public hearing and accept the staff recommendation.
Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. That moves us on to public hearing number 6. This is a public hearing to receive testimony regarding the levy of assessments for fiscal year 2018-19. The public hearing is now open. Do I have any speakers? I have no speaker slips, so I would entertain a motion. Oh, Councilmember Franklin. Is that from before or just put that? No, I just okay.
I did want to make a note on behalf of the residents living within the lighting and landscaping districts, as well as the South Melrose Landscape Maintenance District, because there's oftentimes misunderstanding that the city is allocating resources to those areas out of the general fund, when in fact the residents of those areas do pay into a additional assessment to provide for some additional lighting and landscaping. And I think that's important as we renew this levy to make note of, because sometimes it leaves folks that are not living in that area wondering why they haven't received some of the same investments. But this is a direct return of a voluntary levy that those owners chose. And so with that, I would offer a motion to close the public hearing and to approve the ordinance proposed by staff.
Councilmember Green.
That's it. Second.
Okay. Please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. That moves us on to our discussion items. So discussion items are number 1, regulations for candidate statements to be submitted to voters for the November 6, 2018 general municipal election. So our city clerk, Kathy Valdez, can provide the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. California Elections Code permits each candidate in any local election to prepare a candidate statement of qualifications to be printed in the voter information pamphlet, no longer than 200 words, unless the local agency authorizes statements up to 400 words. The code also permits the local agency to charge the candidate an estimated pro rata share of the cost of language translation and printing the statement in the voter information pamphlet. The San Diego County Registrar of Voters has estimated the cost to be an average of $1,000 for a 200-word statement and $1,500 for a 400-word statement. The City Council has 3 options. You may take no action, and each candidate will be allowed to submit a 200-word statement for which the city will be required to pay the full cost, or adopt a resolution limiting the candidate's statement of qualification to 200 words and requiring the candidate to pay the cost of their statement, or adopt a resolution limiting the candidate's statement of qualification to 400 words and requiring the candidates to pay their costs for their statements. If the City Council chooses to authorize a 400-word statement, all candidates would be subject to the estimated $1,500 fee or need to opt out of submitting a candidate statement of qualification. That completes my report. I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Franklin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As this is an important means of communicating with the voters, and I believe it's the longstanding practice of the city, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt an ordinance to allow candidates to submit up to 400 words and that they be assessed the cost of doing so.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I would agree. 200 words is not a lot of words to get your statement out there, and for some candidates, this may be their only opportunity to get their statement out there. So this is, I mean, for $500, you can get your full statement out there to the entire city. So I support that.
So is that a second to the
Yes.
motion? Okay, seeing nobody else, please cast your votes. That motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. I said that like this is a recording. No, just teasing. Okay. Discussion item number 2, process to resolve a tie vote for the November 6, 2018 general municipal election. City Clerk Valdez will provide the staff report.
Thank you again. California Elections Code provides that a tie vote is to be determined by the Elections Board, in our case, the County Board of Supervisors, by lot unless the council adopts a resolution providing for a special runoff election prior to the election. The County Board of Supervisors may determine a tie vote by the flipping of a coin, drawing a name from a bowl, or some other method of chance. The Elections Code allows a legislative body within San Diego County to choose to have an all-mail ballot election to fill a vacancy on the City Council. The San Diego Register of Voters estimates the cost of holding a special election by an all-mail ballot to be between $430,000 and $530,000, and the cost to hold a special standalone election to be between $550,000 and $650,000. A City Council resolution is required to provide for a special runoff election to be held to fill a vacancy on the City Council in the event of a tie vote, and to specify if it would be conducted by an all-mail ballot or a standalone election. No City Council action is required to provide for a tie vote to be determined by the Elections Board by lot. That completes my report. I'm available to answer questions.
Councilmember Franklin.
So my understanding is this has actually happened one time before in the city of Vista, and we have had a number of contests that have been decided by a small number of votes. I'm not personally opposed to the coin flip, particularly when the cost to taxpayers is as much as $500,000 or more dollars. But I want to hear from my colleagues.
Councilmember Green.
I'm cool with coin flip. Save taxpayers some money as well. God's will be done.
Did you want to do it? You don't need a motion for that, do we? If we do that, how do we do that?
If you go with the coin flip, then you do not need a motion. You do not adopt either of the resolutions.
And then we don't vote on it. Is that right?
That's correct. No one would make a motion. There would be no motion, no second. Move on to the next item.
Okay. Deputy Mayor.
I would agree for the most part with the coin flip if there's 2 people running in a district or 2 people running for mayor, because I don't know if that actually makes sense, but from a financial perspective, I guess it does. But if you have 3, 4, 5 people running for an office and the top 2 people tie, I think it makes sense to see who of those 2 out of the 3 or 4 or 5 people are the most popular in the city. And I think that we're doing a disservice to the voters by not offering them the opportunity. So I don't know. I mean, could we draft something where if it's only 2 people running, it's a coin flip, and if it's more than 2, it's a runoff?
The statute does not provide for that option.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's my opinion. But I'd like to hear about from the mayor.
I don't know. Well, that's a lot of money. I was thinking it might make people mad if we just did a coin flip, especially if there are like several people running, and there are a lot of, like this last election, only 20% of the people voted, and then they go, oh, I should have voted. Whoever, if we did a coin flip, they say, well, gosh, I should have voted. Why didn't they have another election to see who we want them to be the leader? So, I can do the coin flip too. It doesn't. I mean, I don't have anything real strong. I don't feel strongly either way. So, Councilmember Franklin, I'll go back to you.
So this estimate, does this include one of the 4 districts, or is this for a citywide?
We asked them for a citywide figure. Yeah. So that would be if it were the mayor position, it would presumably be less if it were a district. But because it'd be a standalone, whether it was by mail or having actual booths. It's going to be quite high.
Does it seem reasonable that it would be approximately a quarter of the cost if it was one of the council districts? No?
I don't think it would be a quarter. I think it would be more than that.
Maybe half.
There certainly would be a reduction, but
Right.
it's difficult for them to estimate without knowing all the variables.
Sure.
So they give us pretty wide ranges.
And we couldn't craft our own ordinance that says if there are only 2 on the ballot, it goes to lot, and if there are more?
As a charter city, we would have the option to adopt rules in the future that could pertain to future elections, but I don't believe we really have enough time to do that for this
Understood.
November.
Okay. And then I would go ahead and make a motion that we adopt a measure to hold a special election in the event of a tie, which is extraordinarily unlikely to happen. And given the fact that now 4/5 of our elections are only by district, probably the cost would be much lower for a district election, even if they wouldn't be a quarter. Certainly, dealing with a quarter of the voters can't be as expensive as dealing with all of them for an election. So I would make that motion that we adopt an ordinance for the purpose of establishing a special election in the case of a tie.
How long would it take how long would it take, like after an election, if there was a tie, then how long would it take to have another election?
Within 125 days.
Like 4 months?
Yeah, between 88 and 125 days after the election's certified.
So then you wouldn't then they wouldn't have any person. That's a long time for 4 months to go without having a person. I'm thinking maybe we need to go to coin flip.
I might mention that we haven't had a tie in 30 years or more, but you never know.
Oh, Councilmember Green, sorry.
So number one, that's great. No tie in 30 years. But I also, initially I was thinking the coin flip, and I think I was thinking it more like 2. If there's, a lot of people on the ballot, I completely understand. And I think the taxpayers would appreciate us letting their voice be heard. And actually, that's a good use of funds in the event it's an election that's closely contested. So with that, I'm going to second Councilmember Franklin's motion.
Deputy Mayor.
I was just going to make the motion.
Okay, I'll go with you guys.
Can we clarify if that's a standalone or an all-mail ballot? Either way, it's a standalone, but whether it's all mail. Okay.
All mail, yeah. Okay, so please cast your ballots. It must be getting late. Okay, but that motion passes unanimously with Councilmember Rigby excused. Okay, D3. How many more have we got? One more after this. Okay, D3 are 2018 through 2020 city goals. Economic development. Kevin Ham is going to present the staff report.
Good morning. Did I say good morning? I guess I did. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm Kevin Ham, Director of Economic Development. At the City Council meeting on March 6th, the council identified citywide goals for the next 2 years. Staff has researched methods and programs to meet the goals, and an action plan has been prepared for the council to review and provide direction to staff. That is Exhibit 1 in the agenda report. Staff will return to council in June and December of each year to update you on the status of those goals. And at this time, I would like to go through the goals and action plan so the council can discuss the action plan and provide direction to staff. So these are the 8 goals that the council set. Continue fiscal responsibility, continue to improve the flow of traffic, reduce congestion, and improve our roads and sidewalks. Develop a strategic plan to address homelessness, continue to decrease blight and improve the image of our city, economic development, public safety, parks and recreation, and maintain standards for multifamily housing. So with regard to the priorities, we have set high, medium, and low. High priorities are goals that have funding, staff support, and are of significant importance to the council and the community. Medium goals are goals that are routine, may have funding available or staff assigned in the near future. Low priority goals are goals that do not have funding or staff assigned. This is the first goal, and let me describe a little bit the format here. At the top, the heading is the specific goal. You have 8 goals, so there are 8 sections. Then we have in blue where it says A, that's an action, and underneath that are tasks related to that action to move that task forward. So for example, under fiscal responsibility, there are 2 items, which is tracking of expenses related to projects and goals, and B is continue to build emergency reserves with a goal to achieve a 35% reserve. So for example, with regard to B, we will come back each year with regard to the year-end fund balance and discuss with the council what that would be and what that amount would be each and every year. Any question on this page before I move forward? Okay.
I don't see any questions.
Goal 2, continue to improve the flow of traffic, reduce congestion, and continue to improve our roads and sidewalks. So the first goal here is analyze traffic congestion. Then the second task is to create and continue traffic congestion plan to reduce traffic congestion. With regard to this goal, if you look at some of the tasks underneath, continue to upgrade the existing traffic signal and communication system equipment, which is 2, to allow more flexibility in signal timing schemes and more efficient central management of traffic signals. And this really allows for synchronization both south and north of the 78. Install a traffic performance measurement system to monitor congestion and obtain quantifiable performance measures such as travel time and vehicle delays. So for example, tonight you approved C13, which was the Blue Toad system, and that moves us forward on that path. Task C, hold a workshop to discuss traffic and congestion. So that will be coming to council in September, so know that that will be coming to you here in the near future. Catalog and analyze sidewalks throughout the city and make improvements is D. E is identify neighborhoods where the addition of sidewalks would improve safety, develop a plan for improvements, and prioritization. And so we're currently doing that. We're liaisoning with other organizations such as the school district. Develop and implement a homeless strategic plan, including nonprofits and religious organizations.
Mr. Ham, real quick, was there any questions on traffic from the City Council? Okay.
Sorry for...
So with regard to the homelessness strategic plan, last Friday we received 3 responses to an RFP that we put out. Staff is currently in the process of reviewing the RFPs that have been received, and then we'll be coming back to you with those responses or a selected response for your input and direction. B is continue to collaborate regionally. C is let me ask any questions on any of these here? No? C is address panhandling, homelessness violations, and make service referrals. So the 2 that I'd like to highlight here is that we're in the process of implementing a public education campaign to curtail public participation in panhandling. And number 4, develop a homelessness reference assistance guide for businesses and residents. I want to highlight items in red, denote those that we have not yet started. So this list is a little bit different than the one in your packet. We wanted to make it easy to see on the screen. So if you notice in your packet, you have the high, the medium, and the low priority. Here it's denoted by an M, an H, or an L. And then as opposed to having whether or not we have started moving a project forward, we've taken that column out and I've highlighted it in red.
Deputy Mayor has a question.
So on item 3, or number 3, what kind of signage are you talking about? I mean, just something like don't feed or don't give money to panhandlers?
That's what we've talked about thus far, but the city manager and city attorney may have some additional input.
Yeah, I've had a few different conversations with Councilman Franklin, who actually suggested this item, and it's basically giving others an out to be able, if they don't, instead of donating to somebody that's panhandling, give to a charity or put the phone number or a code for somebody to go to be able to donate. If people are looking to make a difference, they can make a difference in another way.
Deputy Mayor, are you still? You're done? Okay. Councilmember Franklin.
The idea that I brought to staff was to give motorists who wanted to help folks in our community that need help, to give them an opportunity to support the programs that operate in the city, that have partnered with the city to provide real services that create lasting solutions, because I think that's what folks really want to support financially, but they need maybe our help to facilitate giving $5 to an organization that would really make a lasting change in someone's life. And so that's the idea. It definitely has some thought, needs to be invested in the execution of the idea. But the idea is to facilitate the Good Samaritan who wants to help others. Not to prevent somebody from being helpful, but to provide them a meaningful way to actually be helpful and to change people's lives.
It's interesting because several years ago we had a program that was it was said real change, not spare change, and we had things that put in the businesses downtown. It was when we had a homeless problem. I'm guessing 10, maybe 15 years ago. But we hosted a whole campaign like that, which helped. So, and that was signage, but they're posters rather than. But signs like that might be a good thing to do. So, yeah, maybe we get somebody on board to work on the homeless problem. Then we can talk about some of that. Okay.
Moving on to Goal 4, continue to decrease blight and improve the image of the city. A is to continue to work with property owners on vacant lots and abandoned buildings such as gas stations to improve their properties. So this is more about vacant buildings and vacant lots. But the next one relates to existing properties, improving those existing occupied buildings and properties. So several of the items that we've suggested, and a few of them we wanted to call out, is researching standards used in other cities and then recommending to the City Council the new standards via City Council ordinances. So we'll be looking at what other cities have done in this situation and recommending those to you. Continuing the existing facade improvement program, which has been very successful in certain areas to improve the facade of buildings. Any questions on this moving forward?
I see no questions on that.
Moving forward with Goal 4, again, research state programs to assist with financing for pocket parks and community gardens. Renew partnership with Caltrans to improve blight on the entrance/exit ramps to the city. An example here is our Public Works Director over the last 3 months has reinitiated conversations with Caltrans and moving forward on those conversations. Continue to monitor signage is item 3. F is continue the addition of murals. E is evaluate key areas for complete street design. Any question on those?
I don't see any questions.
Goal 5, economic development. Continue progress on phase 1 and 2 construction with regard to Paseo Santa Fe. That is moving forward. Pursue grants and other funding sources to finance the construction of phase 3. I believe the council knows that Sandag has recommended us for a smart transportation incentive grant for $2.5 million. and that will be going to the Sandag Board here in the near future. B, continue to further the development and improve the historic downtown. The first item there is reviewing the downtown specific plan every 3 years and report back to the council regarding any potential changes. That actually will be coming to the council in September of this year as well. So you have that to look forward here in the near future. Continue the Vista Cares Walk with regard to Paseo Santa Fe, South Santa Fe, historic downtown and Vista Village. We just had that walk. It was timely in that a lot of the businesses on Paseo Santa Fe wanted to provide input, which we were able to bring back, take into our thinking, and provide them some additional information that was helpful. And we were also able to pass out our road construction toolkit, which was very helpful to many of the businesses. Any questions on this moving forward?
I don't see any. So.
Okay. Continue to move forward with the walkability in the historic downtown is item C. Continue to attract new revenue-generating businesses to the city. I'm stopping on this for a second. We have Norm Reeves moving in. We have the Ayers Hotel, which is coming in. We also are in discussions with 2 other locations in our city with regard to a hotel and some other restaurant uses as well. So those are areas that we continue to focus on. Improving the general economic development of the city. What I wanted to point out here, and you heard a little bit from Community Housing Works earlier, how engaging and connecting with the brokerage community is important, especially I think the retail brokerage community. And so what we've undertaken is kind of summit meetings with some of the leaders in the field of the commercial brokerage world, asking them how can they see changes to what we're doing really having an impact on the businesses that they bring in, where do they see the market going, how might we be able to assist. So those meetings have gone very well. The brokerage community appreciates the input, and it gives us insight that we can't get any other way than those people that have their feet on the street each and every day. Any questions?
Don't see any.
All right. Moving on to public safety, overall public safety. With regard to the sheriff's captain and the fire chief, they will present twice a year to provide updates to the council. The fire chief will be giving an update on June 26th, and the sheriff's captain will be giving an update on August 14th. So those will be coming up here in the near future. Continue to reduce crime rates. Perfect timing for this because we're at an all-time low, but that doesn't mean that we're sitting on our heels. We'll continue to move forward with tasks that are below, but now is a time where we're at an all-time low with regard to crime in the city. Hire more deputies is C. That is the next item on your agenda this evening, so you'll have the opportunity to address that question this evening. Any questions?
Don't see any.
All right. Parks and recreation. The first is continued focus on improving recreational programs, parks, and facilities. Some of the items that we wanted to point out is looking at increased utilization of the Linder Roads Recreation Center. Also very important, as staff, we know, staying within the City Council approved subsidy levels for cultural arts, recreation, senior services, senior nutrition, and the WAVE divisions. So that's something that's very important, and we realize that, and that's a goal that we continue to or a task that we continue to focus on. Any questions before moving forward?
I don't see any.
Great. Continue improving parks and park facilities. Highlighting number 2 here with regard to Palo Vista Park. We've already had the community workshops. We're moving forward. I believe it will be we're going to the Parks and Recreation Commission on the 25th of this month with regard to the conceptual design, and then we'll bring it back to council in August. So that will be coming up as well.
Any questions? Nope.
Okay.
Oh, we're almost at the end.
All right. Maintain standards for multi-level housing. So, city attorney working along with the city manager to develop ordinances related to improving issues of overcrowding and parking. That's a difficult one, but that's one that the council has asked us to make sure is on the list. Encourage older multifamily housing to redevelop or rehab is B. C, explore allowing for some compact parking within the downtown specific plan area, and that will be included in the recommendations coming forward to you with the downtown specific plan update in the near future. And then D is continue with the crime-free multifamily housing. That was approved in April, and so we continue to move forward with that. And with that, that concludes my presentation for the evening, and we have staff if you have any additional questions.
Do you have any questions, additional questions? Councilmember Green.
I just wanted to thank staff for working so hard for putting a plan of action together for our goals. So we throw a lot at you. We're out there, boots on the ground in the community. We hear from them, and we just kind of tell you, hey, make this happen. So to actually see the goals come to fruition and see a plan of attack in writing, thank you guys for all your hard work. I definitely appreciate it.
Okay, moving on to D4, discussion item 4, and that's our last. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. I just wanted to second Councilman Green's comments and thank the staff for all their hard work on our goals. I think this is a very methodical approach to making sure that we achieve progress on each of them, so thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say thank you as well.
I'll say thank you too. Okay, now moving on to discussion item number 4, staffing options for petroleum parks and public spaces. Assistant City Manager Ellie Zimmerman is going to provide our staff report.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members. This item, as you know, is a follow-up to the May 29th special meeting discussion of the draft fiscal year 2018-19 operating budget. And during that meeting, part of the discussion took place about the use of the projected year-end fund balance, which is projected to be around $312,000 at the end of fiscal year 18-19. Based on that discussion and direction that we had received during the March Goals Workshop regarding increasing the number of deputies in the city, staff had anticipated that we would be looking at the addition of one special purpose deputy position to the city to be assigned to the Sheriff's Community-Oriented Policing and Problem-Solving Unit. However, following the discussion on the 29th, you instead directed staff to research park ranger positions and provide information on both park rangers and sheriff deputy positions prior to the addition of either position or positions in the upcoming budget. So here we are. Direction received tonight will be immediately implemented in the operating budget, which we are in the final stages of to get it to you for consideration on the 26th. So I'm going to just briefly give an overview of what our special purpose officers do, and then an overview of the alternative, and then open it up to questions. Our special purpose deputies are assigned to work on issues that improve the quality of life for Vista residents, businesses, and our visitors. The current assignments, which are based on the City Council's priority goals and current events coming on in the city, include addressing transients and illegal encampments, graffiti issues, alcohol-related issues, special patrols, and investigating and addressing illegal marijuana dispensaries. These are the deputies you typically see out front in lead roles in our community events and education, such as the Junior Deputy Academy, working at the Strawberry Festival, the Day with the Deputy events. These are those officers that you see on bike patrols in the Creek Walk, doing those special details for the city. These positions are not part of our complement of patrol deputies that are covering the city 24/7, responding to calls for service. And therefore, to add one officer wouldn't impact or make any of the scheduling lopsided. You could add one officer, one deputy to that cadre in the COPS unit, and what you would receive would just be enhanced operations, better overlapping of schedules to cover additional days and hours, and expanded projects and assignments. The cost for an additional deputy sheriff is about $277,500 a year, and that's about $240,000 in subsequent years. The difference is the startup costs, which are basically the vehicle and some other administrative items. I would also mention that If the position uses an unmarked vehicle, that initial cost decreases by about $18,000, and I'm bringing that up because the special purpose officers are typically assigned unmarked vehicles, so it's a little bit cheaper that first year. We also discussed, or you requested information on park ranger type positions, and while Vista doesn't have any classification that is called a park ranger, we believe the closest to this type of role is our code enforcement officers. Code officers generally respond to complaints, but are also used in proactive ways to address City Council and staff high priority items, mainly related to blight and quality of life. The currently code staff are assigned to work in different beats of the city, and they address a variety of items, including signage, vehicle issues, property issues, blight, and animal issues. They do respond to complaints inside of parks, but typically related to potentially transients, noise, or off-leash dogs, but it's generally on a complaint basis. We don't proactively send code officers into the parks to do projects on a regular basis. Code enforcement is also on a staggered schedule to be available to the community 7 days a week. And if the council desired a new code officer position or positions, those could be assigned to patrol parks, providing information, issuing citations, but not addressing public safety issues. They are not, they don't carry weapons, and they work on an individual basis. They're not on any type of emergency dispatching system. It wouldn't be appropriate to put them in situations that could potentially be a threat. The annual cost for a code officer position does range. It depends on the level of the position and the level of autonomy, but it's between about $106,000 to $136,000 a year, and there are one-time startup costs of approximately $30,000 for the purchase of a vehicle, uniforms, and equipment. I did also provide in the staff report a chart summarizing the other ranger-type programs that we identified in San Diego County, but as you can see from the chart, there's really no standard model to follow. Each community does it their own way. This completes my overview of the report, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Green.
All right. First of all, thank you so much for your report, and thank you for bringing this forward. I was initially thinking that one deputy would be awesome. We haven't increased our, sheriff's force in a lot of years, and we have definitely increased our population in years. However, crime is at an all-time low, which is amazing. One thing that I've found being on the council this last year is that people take their parks extremely seriously, and that we don't have enough patrols within our parks. So I definitely want to hear from my fellow council members, but I like the option of having people actually patrolling our parks regularly, having 2 employees dedicated to patrolling our parks, our new skate parks, our trails, dog parks, our new Bub Williamson Park we're putting tons of money in. It may not be a public safety benefit, but I really think it's a quality of life benefit. And if we can have people patrolling our parks that can inform law enforcement when there is a problem, I think that they'll make our parks more welcoming, and our citizens will be more inept to use them if they know that there's constantly city officials monitoring the parks. And I don't need these to be park rangers with guns and tasers that, think they're like a hierarchy of city employee per se. I would just like it to be some type of code enforcement that their sole job is to monitor our parks, and I want to know when they're going by and checking it out and making sure that whatever issues are popping up, we're the first to know about it, because I'd like to hear about it as soon as possible and, keep our parks as awesome and vibrant as possible so that our kids and our communities can use them. So after looking at the cost analysis between the deputy and a quality of life improvement for code enforcement and park, I would be more in favor of having 2 people constantly monitoring our parks, enforcing our rules and regulations in those parks so that the quality of life for our community could be improved. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Councilmember Franklin.
This is an issue that I've been trying to bring to the forefront for a number of years since I've been on the council. As our community has grown, we have not increased the total number of deputies serving. I've done a lot of research. Some communities have fewer deputies per 1,000 residents than we do, but those that do tend to have a higher average household income, which would, in many cases, it correlates to less crime. Those are the way the statistics that I read were presented. I've received this comment from a lot of folks about the housing, like the housing that we approved this evening. We've got some other projects that'll be coming before us soon. And there are other cities that have as many as twice as many deputies or police officers for the exact same population that we have. Now, those cities tend to be much more impacted by crime. One thing that I think is really important to point out is, yes, we are at a historically low crime rate for Vista and for San Diego County. However, as we look at the crime rate in Vista and we compare it with Carlsbad and San Marcos, clearly we're not in an identical circumstance. The fabric of our community is different than those communities. However, there are pockets of lower crime, and I believe that we can never take an attitude towards crime and policing that a 49-year low is low enough. I want to achieve a 100-year low, and then when we get there, I want to keep working on it. I would want to hear a lot more information about what the rangers in the parks would do. But fundamentally, the issue that we haven't increased our contingent of sworn deputies who are, fully authorized law enforcement agents, have a badge and a gun, and in the case of our cops deputies, they provide services that are of the highest priorities for law enforcement, and as is described by staff, make the greatest difference noticeably in quality of life issues. And that's why it was the staff's recommendation, and I agreed and thought it was a good recommendation to increase the cops deputies contingent by one, increasing the total number of projects and other assignments that could be processed by that unit as a whole. This is a really important priority. When we were all five sitting in our goal-setting session, we had a majority of the council that agreed that adding more police deputies was important. Years ago, it was a standard that 1,000 was 1 per 1,000 residents. If we had 1 per 1,000, we'd have closer to 100 or 103 sworn deputies. I'd like to see us continue to grow and have a greater police presence, eventually resulting in a larger presence of patrol deputies. I would like to see Vista be extremely aggressive on crime and never be satisfied that we've achieved a low enough crime rate, because I don't think there's such a thing. I think we still have a lot of challenges that we face as a community. Had the opportunity to go spend a day with the cops team, which I kind of talked about, I think, in our last council meeting. The work that they're doing is very important, and I'd like to have twice as many of our sheriff's deputies, but we've got to make a step in the direction of increasing. This is just a single deputy. My hope would be that we could find, the room in our budget to increase by one every year. I would like to see that for the next 10 years, because I really believe another 10 deputies would make a huge impact in our city. So this is really important to me. I'd really like to, I understand the need, and there's been some request for policing in the parks. And I suppose if we put a code enforcement officer in the parks, what they would do is issue citations to folks who are in the parks. We do already have code enforcement officers who occasionally patrol the parks. They're not posted there on a regular basis. We also have a larger number of parks than we, even with adding 2 more rangers, we're not going to have enough code enforcement officers to be a constant presence in every park.
That's correct. Given the size of the city and the layout of our park spaces, the code enforcement position would be moving from space to space, but definitely would be stretched thin.
And maybe Ms. Zimmerman could describe, if there were 2 code enforcement officers working the parks, how that schedule would work and the staggering of the schedule for a day or 2.
More than the schedule, I'd like to understand more about what specific duties they would undertake other than general enforcement of codes in the park. how would our Director of Code Enforcement, who presumably would be the supervisor of those officers, how would he see them focusing their efforts? We do exercise substantial discretion in code enforcement. What would be our focus of our time there?
Well, given that this would be something coming directly from the City Council, for example, the last time we added a code enforcement position, it was based on the last goal-setting session when proactive enforcement in the commercial corridors was a high priority to the council. When we brought on that code enforcement officer, that position is not assigned specifically to a beat, except that their beat is the commercial corridors, East Vista Way, Vista Village, Santa Fe, to keep the signage down, to deal with businesses, graffiti, the issues you see in the commercial corridors. Again, this would be coming out of the Council Goals Action Plan. We were trending towards those quality of life issues that we're seeing on the law enforcement side with the special purpose officer. If the council says no, instead we're hearing that there's a need in parks, we are not hearing that specific daily need in parks. To have a code enforcement presence. But I did a lot of research specifically related to City of Carlsbad. They're using police rangers. Their program is a little bit different. It was a result of some issues with their general plan and needing to have enforcement in their lagoons and wetland habitat areas. But they're dealing, again, with off-leash dogs, a lot of just assists of people who have questions. If there's a burglary or a theft, they can assist with that. A lot of found property, maybe people drinking in the park where alcohol isn't allowed. Right now, we do respond to parks on the weekends when you get a complaint about noise or amplification. So those people may be assigned to be proactively in those areas where we have larger rentals on parks. But right now, we're dealing with those on a complaint basis with the code enforcement officers that are already on the weekend. But I would assume it would be more of the same, but assigned to parks specifically as opposed to responding to a complaint.
One other question I wanted to ask is, because I have been supportive of the idea, and we have recently, I think, staff has, Mr. Johnson, you mentioned to me that we're going to be adding another half-time position in code enforcement.
A half-time parking officer.
Right.
That's correct.
But one of the things we've looked at always is, is it financially sustainable to add more code enforcement officers? Are we going to have an eye toward, and is it going to be the direction of the council that we're going to issue enough tickets in the parks to make recovery of some of the costs? I mean, I wouldn't want to see us do that because I think that would make the citizens less than happy with us. I don't know. I guess I'll suspend my remarks here, but I just really implore you to consider the mind towards increasing our contingent of deputies. I think it's so important.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I want to thank Councilman Franklin for pursuing this, because I think public safety is one of our number one goals and always a concern. We spend 65% of our budget on public safety. I do believe this is a quality of life issue and a public safety issue. The number of deputies, that has concerned me in the past, that we haven't added deputies as our city has grown. But I look at the results, and obviously our sheriffs are doing something right, because crime is down and we're getting the results we want. I mean, it's not perfect, of course, and I don't think we'll ever be in a perfect situation, but it's good to be striving for perfection. I think when I brought up the rangers, or now we're talking code enforcement, I read that article from Carlsbad. One of our constituents actually sent it to me, and that kind of prompted me to go the ranger route instead of the deputy route. And the reason for that is I think that we can get more bang for the buck, and it's an area that we have had some concerns. Even, we've talked about Bub Williamson over the last several months. There's issues there. There's been issues in our dog park. I mean, that could be an area where the code enforcement officer could help enforce some of the rules there. And I'm sure there's other issues. I know Wildwood Park, we had some issues, and they've gone ahead and put some lights there, which was a great idea. Light up the park. Those people leave. It's a matter of having some sort of presence in the park, make it safe for people. I'm also interested to find out, I mean, I know Carlsbad has a lot more protected lands than we do, but we do have a creek that flows through our city, and I would be interested in having these people also at least patrol those areas, and if there's problems there, they could contact the sheriff to, there shouldn't be people living and destroying our creek area either. And as far as cost recovery, I never ever thought that we would be looking at cost recovery, because I know when we hire sheriff, we're not looking for cost recovery on that either. This is just public safety. It's the cost of doing business and part of city government and what we're supposed to provide with the citizens' tax dollars. So I'm still in support of the community policing until we can free up more money where we could really make an impact with our sheriff. I think the code enforcement, if they're dedicated to this area, they're going to make a greater impact than our current code enforcement, because we have them doing other things.
Councilmember Green.
I just wanted to respond to Councilmember Franklin as well from a public safety standpoint. I think Councilmember Aguilera, or Deputy Mayor rather Aguilera, did a great job of it. My biggest thing is, what's the most tangible evidence we can provide for our community by making this change? And I feel like by having 2 code enforcement officers constantly assigned with monitoring our parks, those are actually going to be members of the community. They're going to be out there seeing our residents that are using our parks, hopefully get on a first name basis with them, and they'll be more apt to report crime, and they'll be, more apt to keep our parks safe. So I've been to a lot of our parks. I know you've been through a lot of our parks, walked a lot of our parks. We have another new park coming in right around the road right here, which is in an area that we definitely need it to be monitored to maintain kind of the integrity of the community. And also when people come into our town, that park is going to be one of the first thing they see as well. So I think this is going to give us, like Deputy Mayor Aguilera said, a little more bang for our buck. I don't know that an unmarked car with a cops patrol guy is going to be, really felt by our community. So I think, as far as our goals go, that the code enforcement officers in the parks would be more in line with our goals and, actually show our community, hey, we're listening. We're going to really start enforcing our parks, and they're going to be a better place for you and your community. I know I just did a cleanup with the Only Losers Litter crew at Bringle Terrace Park, and a lot of the trash I was picking up were cigarette butts and beer bottle caps and things like that, and which means there's a lot of open containers and alcohol consumption happening at our parks, on the weekends, which also has an effect on safety. So. Even though one officer would be fantastic, I think that the 2 code enforcement, as far as I'm concerned, serve a purpose better in our community at this point in time. And hopefully there will be more money freed up. And, next year we can look at maybe adding another officer if it's going to make as big of a difference. So that's where I'm at with it. Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate something that Councilman Green mentioned, because that was one of the points I wanted to make. And I think, Councilman Franklin, you've mentioned this in the past as well, and one of the things that I know you've talked about, and you'd like to have more community policing, whereas sheriff doesn't really provide that. And I think this is a way to actually provide that community policing. Councilman Green mentioned earlier about the skate parks and that. It would be great to have a couple of employees of the city that are going to be here for many years forward and be on a first name basis with some of the people in the community and get to know those people and develop some rapport and know who the real troublemakers are and who the ones that are not the troublemakers, by knowing those people really well. And so I think this is a way that we could add some community policing to our city and still maintain a relationship obviously with the sheriff, because I think they do a fantastic job.
Councilmember Franklin.
So the question has been put to us if we're going to go the route of the park ranger do we want to, how do we want to certify this individual? How do we want to equip them? Do we want this individual to have the title of police ranger, police services officer, park ranger, ranger specialist? There's a variety of options here that if we chose to model off of another city, or would we just give this individual a title of code enforcement officer and equip them in the same manner that our code enforcement officers are equipped now?
Who are you asking that to?
I guess I'm asking, it's really the council's prerogative, and since Deputy Mayor Aguilera is the proponent of the idea, I guess I would ask him for his thoughts.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I've had discussion with staff on this. You know, my original proposal was to arm them with tasers and pepper spray and that. You know, I've been convinced that that may not be the best option for safety reasons, believe it or not. So I would be okay with them being armed the same way as our code enforcement with a phone or radio. I don't know if we could do a radio. Can they be on the same?
So they
do they have direct to the sheriff?
They would have our typical code enforcement officers now are equipped with a phone. They use a phone, and they may have a tablet when they're in the field to address their caseload if they're planning to be in the field all day.
They don't have the 800 megahertz radios that are in line with the law enforcement.
Okay. And that's not a possibility, I'm guessing?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
It'd be something to investigate and look into, but yeah, obviously a phone, yeah, I mean, that's a given. City paid for a phone. So, yeah, I think they wouldn't be armed any differently than our current code enforcement, but just with the specialty of working in our parks, creek areas, you know, like our Vista Village Creek area, which is a park as well. But I'm talking about also the creek area in Hacienda. That's a watershed to the ocean. My understanding is there's a lot of people living in that area. But yeah, I don't know. Is that what you're looking for?
If I could jump in here, I wouldn't recommend having a sole single code enforcement officer go out in most of the creek areas and trying to deal with a homeless element out there that are either living for a period of time or setting up camp. It's not an appropriate use of a code enforcement officer. That's more geared toward a cops deputy. I think if you want to go down this route where you're looking at having an ambassador and people in the parks, we try to keep them in the parks and maybe the trails to keep people safe or to address issues. But some of those areas, and I think Councilman Franklin will attest on his cops ride along, probably not geared towards a single officer going in those areas. It wouldn't be safe.
Okay, I think we do need to address that in the future at some point. It may be in a different manner, but I think it needs to be addressed.
The area, of course. I just wouldn't put a single code officer with a phone going.
Well, another area I'm thinking of is, you know, what about the Village Creek area? I mean, that's a park.
That's an open park that has visibility on all sides. It would be appropriate for proactive patrolling there. The area that the city manager is speaking of is wooded, secluded. We would likely not even send a single armed law enforcement officer. That would be at least a two-person.
That makes sense. That makes sense. But I definitely would like that Village Creek area monitored. I've had more than just a couple of concerns there from. And I've actually had concerns there as people have walked through there. So,
I was kind of jump in. Are we talking about just one code enforcement officer, or are we talking about two? Two, okay. And then, and I would say they need to look official, so that, you know. I mean, I was thinking about the city employee that was, remember at the skateboard park or the skate park. Remember he had it was kind of he was by himself. So these guys need to be. I don't know. It's a little dangerous sometimes, and so. But so I'm kind of going back and forth. I guess if they feel threatened, they could call the sheriff. It'd be nice if they had the phone that could get right to them, not have to go through the desk somewhere.
As far as the name, though, I don't care what you want to.
And I
want to
will
call him a ranger or park ranger. It
We
doesn't matter
currently
to
have
me.
code enforcement officer classification, so that might be the easiest, and they could be dedicated to the parks if that's the council's wish. I will say that when you have that proactive enforcement, walking through the parks and seeing things, the cops deputies will be getting more calls as a result, which isn't a bad thing because there's issues out there, but just keep that in mind, that it may put pressure as well on them, and we may have to address that in the future.
Well, then we may have to hire another sheriff.
Well, I wish we could hire, that would be my thing. One, hire a sheriff and two code officers would be my answer to the whole thing. Okay, Councilmember Franklin.
The good news is we have the opportunity before us right now to approve the hiring of that sheriff's deputy, and we are actually adding a halftime. It's already in the works to add a halftime code enforcement officer. Having gone through some of these riverbed areas, absolutely, I would not go down there with a cell phone. Without at least two deputies with me, I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be down there. During my ride along, the deputies had an incident where they had to draw their firearms and charge into a dangerous situation where they wound up arresting someone who was carrying a replica firearm. It's scary. I mean, one of the deputies showed me the replica firearm as an air pistol, but it looked exactly like a semi-automatic pistol. And the deputy showed it to me and said, what are we supposed to do if somebody points this at us? So it's a dangerous situation. We did have one of our park service officers, I'm getting the title wrong, who was mugged when he closed the park at the skate park. Not just because I'm not getting my way here, but I got to seriously question putting somebody with just a cell phone into a park where it's a very secluded area. Our code enforcement officers, they're knocking on businesses, they're enforcing parking laws, but they're mainly doing it in areas that are not secluded. And I think if they found themselves in a dangerous area where they felt threatened, I think they would probably call the sheriff's deputies to come and to accompany them. The ability to enforce the law and the ability for a sheriff's deputy to defend themselves in the conduct of that enforcement, to me, is very powerful and palpable. And what we're really saying is these code enforcement officers are going to be in a position to get on the phone. We went through a walkthrough here where we pressed where we called for emergency services, and we were able to see how the dispatch process works. It's not immediate as we'd like it to be, but it does take some time for the dispatchers it takes time to connect. It takes time for the dispatchers to dispatch. And whereas if we hired a cops deputy, some of the problems that we've addressed and said we'd like to be able to enforce the law, that person would be there with their full police powers and the use of weapons to defend themselves and the full complete training to implement those weapons in the correct continuum of force. Whereas I think there is a legitimate safety issue with putting somebody in a park by themselves without ready access to backup. And the one thing the sheriffs do have is they do have the ability to call another deputy to their location in very short order. When they get on that radio, they're going to have backup very quickly. And that's not something that with a cell phone that we'd be giving. So I really think, even in terms of we talked about enforcing alcohol, I'm not sure we're going to have a code enforcement officer approach somebody in a park who is using alcohol. Is that something that we would currently put a code enforcement officer in a situation?
In a sense, if there's a complaint about a rental event in a park and a code enforcement officer goes out, they will address whatever violations they see. If they feel uncomfortable, they would, in any situation, back away and call for law enforcement.
So if somebody was drinking alcohol at Buena Vista Park, the code enforcement officer would be within their training and directives from the city to approach that person for that site, for that violation.
If they felt it was safe to do so, correct, yes.
Right, okay. I just would really urge you to consider putting someone with full police powers on the job. I know it's very expensive, and I don't like that either. But it's a reality of putting somebody on the street that has the full ability to address all crimes and all circumstances in front of them. So I would really beseech my colleagues to give it strong consideration. We know exactly how we'd use that individual. We know how they would defend themselves. You know, we don't have to engineer a new program. So
the other thing that I like about I mean, I tend to agree with you, but the other thing I like about like the code officer or whatever, I don't know if they have enough respect from people, you know, criminals or people that are in the parks to, you know, respect them. But I do like that they would know the names of people because they're around. We work for the city. They work for several years. They know the people locally. They get to know, you know, skateboard people. I like that idea. So I'm just so torn. It's like I really think we should have could the cops unit go walk the parks? Maybe we could have the deputy walk the parks or do some of the stuff that the code officer was going to do because they just have more respect. So okay, Councilmember Green, go for it.
So real quick, I played softball in our park since 1999, 2 nights a week, and I've been through a lot of our parks. And Ryan and Justin, who are park employees who come through, are highly respected. And you know, I know Justin was the one who had the issue with the new skate park when we opened up. I felt it was more of a premature opening a park without lighting thing, as opposed to having extremely dangerous parks. I don't think that our parks are that dangerous where our code enforcement guys are going to be, you know, in a situation per se where they need to constantly call law enforcement. I think that this particular program that we're looking at implementing is more of a community policing program and more of a community involvement and engagement program almost. I almost think these code officers are going to be like community liaisons for us as a council, as boots on the ground in our parks. And I think they will be respected. We get them nice, you know, new code cars, nice code outfits, and, you know, give them a spotlight to shine or whatever the trucks going through the park have. And I definitely think that it would make a difference. I think that having 2 more people going through our parks, as a guy who uses the parks all the time with 4 kids, you know, Pokemon Go, you name it. I mean, we're all over these parks. It would really be awesome to have a city employee in there because I only see the city employees because they're so spread so thin pretty much when they're opening and closing. You know, they're not really able to go there and actually watch the people enjoy the parks and help the people in the parks with virtually anything because they're trying to bounce through 18 parks with the limited staff we have. So adding 2 would definitely be a noticeable difference. They do become members of this community. I would consider Ryan and Justin friends over the last, you know, 20-some years that I've been playing softball in Vista, and they're great. They come, they interact, they know the names of all the umpires, and they're just really good, friendly staff to have around. And more people like that in our community, in my opinion, is a fantastic thing, and it's going to be a tangible difference. It's going to make a big impact, and I think the citizens of Vista will appreciate it and they will respect it, just as they respect all of our city employees that work for us here within the city of Vista. Thank you.
Now we're going to have the counterpoint here from Councilmember Franklin.
No, not a counterpoint. I just have 2 additional questions of staff. One would be, well, one is of staff. How would you think that you were going to address the issue of hours and how they would be deployed and the scheduling?
So the thought process, if we were to add 2 code enforcement positions, would be to have them on staggered scheduling. So between the 2 positions, all 7 days of the week would be covered potentially, but that they would both be, we would have doubled up coverage on the weekends. These positions would typically be working when the parks are open, not when the parks are closed. The park directors that Councilman Green was referring to work more of an evening into the night swing shift, and they shut the parks as they close, which goes from sunset to time certain based on the parks with lighting. These officers would be working during the daytime hours, so you would want them to be probably more visible and proactive on weekends. Because that's when we have more people using our parks. So we would have them working a regular shift in terms of the hours of the day as most standard code enforcement employees, but have their shifts start maybe midweek and cover the weekend, and then have one start the weekend and go midweek, so that they would be covering at all times.
What duties are being performed by the current park service? What's the title of the individuals?
I believe they're called Recreation Leader 4s. We call them Park Directors.
Park Directors.
Park
What-
Directors come on around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. They assist with rentals at all the facilities. They assist with other recreation programming as they are available, and they are responsible for locking up the parks at night. We typically have our landscape maintenance contractors opening parks in the morning since they're here, and then we have our Park Directors shutting them at night.
I would think you would, if we were going to have park rangers, I would think you would shift the duty of closing them in the evening to the park ranger.
We could have that discussion.
One of the other questions I wanted to ask my colleagues is, we talked about the complaints that we've had there at the village in the Creek Walk, if it's not actually, and at the Rotary Veterans Wall. So these individuals, if they're just going to be confined to the parks, these two, they wouldn't have the ability to intervene in those locations. Is that right? That'd be our direction.
Yeah, I think what I heard was if we went forward with this, Creek Walk would be part of that area as well.
So we define a boundary for them to operate within that would be maybe greater than the parks?
I think we look at our 15 parks that we would patrol, and then Creek Walk would certainly be an area as well. I would think if you go down this route too, the council probably wants to look at the Veterans Park as being another one of those that's, as Ms. Zimmerman said, out in the open. It's not secluded.
Is it already classified a park right now?
The Veterans Park on Santa Fe is a private property that's an open community space. It's not a public park. It's maintained by the private development, but it's open to the public.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor.
I just wanted to clarify, I think it's been clarified already, but the gentlemen we've been speaking of are park directors. We're talking about hiring different people. You know, Justin, I think it was, so, you know, he's a park director, he was just closing down, so I think we're looking at hiring somebody that's going to be their job, is to hopefully get rid of that person before Justin shows up to lock down, you know, and also get to know those people, and you know, maybe that situation just would have never occurred. I think if you have that community policing and get to know some of the people, I mean, it's amazing when you do start to talk to people, and you know, they may have had bad intentions in the beginning, and then after you get to know them for a little while, they do start to respect you, and they'll listen to you. You know, if you show them a little bit of respect, they'll show you a little bit of respect, and they may just move on and go cause trouble somewhere else, I guess, but at least maybe not in our parks. So.
I think I'm gonna go with the park. That would be my. I'm gonna support that, but then I would want to say that the next time we have the money, I would support a deputy to the cops unit, and I'll go with it if you guys will go with that.
I guess my last request is, would you be willing to have the staff bring back a more comprehensive proposal about these two rangers and what their title, duties, equipment, boundaries? Could we hear maybe in a future meeting a little bit more detail about the staff's plan for?
Sure. We have to, yep, I think we have to. I'd like to. So do you need a motion on that?
No, I think we have direction.
Got direction? Okay.
So when the budget comes before you for consideration at the next meeting, it will include the addition of 2 code enforcement positions, and then once we've done all of our balancing, there's a number of little things that are moving around in the budget. We'll be presenting you a new projected ending fund balance that will be lower by the amount.
We have
here,
to
by
call
about-
code enforcement officers. I don't think they should have a bigger title like a park ranger.
Well, excuse me, Mayor. What I'd recommend, as Ms. Zimmerman stated, we'll add them into the budget as code enforcement officers so that you have positions and classifications that you've approved. If we present you a proposal and you want to change that in August or when it comes before you, then you can direct us and we'll make that change as necessary. But at least you have it in the budget with the 2 positions identified.
Okay, I just think that code doesn't sound so strong as.
Well, we have a number of positions that have working titles. We can come up with something that's more
Yeah,
minimal.
it might be the code officer classification, but you may choose to call it a ranger or a park ambassador or whatever that might be.
Okay, I'm good with that. Everybody good? Okay, so then we are moving on to oral communications. Do I have speakers? Okay, we have four speakers tonight, so we'll start with Kelly McCormick, followed by Matthew Menke, followed by Casey Valverde, followed by Carl Hughes.
Good evening, I'm Kelly McCormick, and I want to mention, starting off, that there were several other parents here at the beginning of the meeting who wanted to speak on the city pot ordinance, but unfortunately they didn't know how to address a consent item, so they missed their opportunity and they couldn't stay for public comment. I would like to draw your attention to some noteworthy June election results from other parts of the state regarding marijuana. In Arupa Valley, voters rejected a ballot measure to overturn the city's ban on commercial marijuana sales and grow operations. And to further emphasize the point, the voters approved a second ballot measure to reaffirm the citywide ban. In Yucca Valley, a ballot measure sought to overturn an ordinance passed last year which prohibited commercial marijuana sales. In a win for public health and safety, the measure failed, with more than 68% of voters saying no to pot shops. I bring this up as further evidence that a vote for Prop 64 should not be confused with a vote for commercial pot businesses. All over the state, even in cities and counties that voted in favor of Prop 64, the voters are saying no to pot shops, manufacturing, and cultivation facilities in their neighborhoods. The ballot initiative in Vista being put forth by the pot industry is egregious. It was written for their own financial benefit. Surely the citizens of Vista will see through this money grab. The city of Vista has done an outstanding job of going after illegal pot shops, and you should be commended for that. The industry has claimed that legalization will eliminate the black market, but that's simply not the case. In fact, the Associated Press recently reported on a leaked police report in Oregon, which revealed that 70% of marijuana sales in 2016 were black market. They've had legalization far longer than California, and yet the problem persists. Legalization has made it easier for the black market to thrive, as product and cash are easily diverted and oversight is nearly impossible. Also, I want to address the issue of high THC marijuana. In the Times of San Diego, Dr. Ronit Lev, Chief of Emergency Medicine at Scripps Mercy Hospital in San Diego, wrote that the volume of emergency department visits in the city related to marijuana increased 830% from 2006 to 2014. She also wrote that she treats patients every day with psychosis, panic attacks, palpitations, chest pain, and extreme vomiting due to marijuana. A patient was admitted to the ICU on life support after using marijuana wax, which was 90% THC. It's time that we recognize the unintended consequences of normalizing pot use and stand up against an industry that cares only about profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew Menke? Is he here? And then Casey Valverde, will you and Carl Hughes, will you line up on the other side over here so we can make it quickly? I need
to see you guys tonight. My name is Matthew. I'm sorry I'm so dirty tonight.
You're Matthew Menke?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, council.
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to hurry.
Okay, well, when you notice when the light turns yellow and then red,
Has it started yet?
Nope.
Okay, start it.
Starts now.
Sorry for my appearances. I am 36 years clean and sober, and I spent the afternoon at the Step House down here on Santa Fe. Today we had a gentleman come in that's on his third day trying to get clean from heroin. He spent the day panhandling, came in with just enough money to buy a big book, only to find out that we don't sell big books to guys like him. We give them to him. So I find it rather ironic that the council sits with the decision on how to put up signage to spend my tax dollars on how to tell me what I'm going to do with my spare change on the freeway on Ramsey. It's ironic. It's not why I'm here tonight. I'm here tonight because all the statistics that lady just gave were completely false. I've studied statistics thoroughly in regards to medical marijuana. My son takes medical marijuana, and I'm 36 years clean and sober and have been a staunch advocate for sobriety for a long time. I know a lot about it. 300 compounds, 60 cannabinoids. Right now, there's a $40 million study at your guys' university, UCSD, right here in San Diego, but there's hundreds of millions of dollars being spent everywhere. And to have Mr. Franklin say that it has no medical benefit just shows his ignorance to the fact a simple Google search could find the studies that are out there. Everybody's racing to get in the medical journals right now. Yes, is there a green rush? Yes, do people want to make money on it? Hell yes, just like the pharmaceutical companies do. I just would like to see my son have safe access to what stops him from having seizures. Now, tonight I brought somebody with me who has a son just like my son, has seizures just like my son, yet he has a different compound that affects his seizures. And we've had to study long and hard. And I'm not a very studied person, but I study this issue because it's my child. And he's in Franklin's district. Franklin sat up there 3 days or 3 meetings back and said that he didn't believe that it had any medical benefit, yet he never came to ask me any questions. This is an election year for him. I'm going to be his strongest anti-voice. I'm going to be his strongest opponent against him because he doesn't want to know. He wants to live in the past. I'm here to tell you that it does have a medical benefit. Huge. And the next gentleman probably will too. And is there a lot of people trying to make money on it? Yes. And would I rather not have the citizens agenda on the ballot? Yes, I would rather have another agenda. But since you guys waited, Franklin said to his church group that the whole reason to put that on the ballot was to get both of them cast down, that if another one gets put on, then neither one of them will pass. If that's the case, then you're diverting the will of the people as well as spending my tax dollars telling me where I can hand out spare change. That's strange.
Your time is up, and that's not why we put it on the ballot. Casey Valverde, followed by Carl Hughes.
Council members, Mayor, appreciate your time tonight. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I do have a 15-year-old boy. He came in a little rambunctious, a little excited to start the night off. I sent him home with my wife. Out of respect to everyone in here. He shouldn't have to stand by my side to, understand my feelings. I completely disagree with the statistics that were said a few minutes ago. Being a parent of a 15-year-old, that is one of those miracles that I don't know if you've ever seen the Sanjay Gupta episode on CNN. Those are real facts. Those are medicinal patients that are thriving from this medicine on a day-to-day basis. And without those drugs, we continue to send our kids to the hospitals and to send them home on a higher dose of medication instead of finding an alternative medication for them to prolong their life. So I sit here tonight. I left the restaurant industry after 17 successful years a year ago. I've driven 800 miles a week to Monterey to get into the industry, to learn the industry. I was a director of operations for a higher level of care. We just launched our second dispensary in Seaside. We have one in Castroville. I spent 13 months in the dispensary in Castroville, and guess how many times we called the sheriff to our dispensary for any altercations? 0. I spent 17 years in the restaurant industry and probably called them once or twice a year to come out in the case of abuse of alcohol. Okay, I spent my going away party at Buffalo Wild Wings. There was 2 people that fell out of their stool because they had too much to drink. But what do we ask them to do? We ask them to pay their bill, get in their car, and drive home. There is a tremendous upside to cannabis, and I just asked you, we go from 11 dispensaries. I didn't put that initiative together, but we go from 11 dispensaries to delivery service only. I was appalled to watch the meeting. I wish I could have been here last week, but I was appalled to watch the meeting to hear that we're going to go from 11 dispensaries to delivery only. We're not going to vertically integrate our city with manufacturing, distribution, cultivation, so we can utilize that tax money, and we wouldn't have had the discussion for 45 minutes on a park ranger. We could have just simply added 3 sheriffs to our town to cover what we wanted. Here we are tonight, we're talking about money. This will generate money. Again, I was in Castroville, California. I know if you've all been to Castroville. We called the sheriffs to our place 0 times. So all these negative statistics, when me and Matt come here with our kids, that our sons' lives are going to be prolonged with this drug moving forward, we just ask you to come up with a better alternative than go from 11 dispensaries to a delivery service only. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Carl Hughes? Is Carl here still? You gone? Okay, so if he's not here, then that is... We'll go from there. We will go to remarks. I'll start down with Councilmember Green.
First of all, thank you everybody for coming tonight. Thanks for staying. Thanks for all your remarks. Thank you staff for a job well done. Real quick, just want to thank EDCO. They opened their doors to us on May 25th and opened their entire facility up for a tour of residents. We had about 20 residents go through there so we could see what happens with our recycling when it comes from our blue bin to Escondido. It was super awesome to just kind of take the community through there and show them where that goes. Another thing that I wanted to shout out, which I'll shout it out next time as well, I was told by my city manager, who has now become one of my favorite people, is that the grand opening of Raising Cane's is on July 24th. Not because he's awesome, but because he told me Raising Cane's. Sorry, Patrick, didn't mean to be rude. So anyways, great business coming to town. Raising Cane's, July 24th, something I support. Thank you, Vista, for putting us in this position. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Franklin? Okay, how about Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I guess I already made them, but went to Sandag last week, and the arena numbers were approved for the higher number of 171,000 homes in the county over the next 8 years. So we've got our work cut out for us.
Crazy. Okay, I have some remarks here. Let's see. Congratulations to the Vista Chamber for celebrating their 95th anniversary on June the 6th. And actually, the Moonlight kicks off its summer season tomorrow on June 13th with Mamma Mia, the Broadway production by ABBA. Ticket information is available at moonlightstage.com, and hurry and get your tickets because they're selling out. It's a very popular show. So join us at the Free Movies in the Park this Saturday, June 16th at 8 to watch Wonder. It's in the Buena Vista Park ball fields over in Shadow Ridge, and the movie details are available at cityofvista.com. The Vista Village Business Association is hosting its annual outdoor Taste of Vista event next week on Wednesday, June the 20th in the downtown area. The event showcases our city's diverse restaurant menus, and the food is absolutely great. Their ticket information is online at vvba.org. And finally, happy Father's Day to everybody. Father's Day is coming this weekend to all fathers in Vista. And I will turn it over to Patrick, my city manager, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. Speaking of Father's Day, at the Wave Water Park this Sunday, June 17th, which is Father's Day, fathers are free with a paid admission of a child. So keep that in mind for Father's Day. It's open from noon to 5 p.m. The city also has openings on its Traffic Commission and Parks and Rec Commission. So if you're interested in applying for those commissions or getting more involved, you can go online at cityofvista.com for an application, or you can go see Kathy Valdez or Claire Lopez and pick up an application for that as well. I did want to mention that in the back we have Captain Chuck Cinemo, who's been our sheriff's captain for 2.5 years and was reassigned on Friday. At the last meeting, we didn't have any comments, so I couldn't make any comments, but I would like to thank Chuck for his service to the city for the last 30 months. As was mentioned, crime is at an all-time low, even in the face of AB 109 and Prop 47. And so Chuck has a lot to do with that with his team. And so just wanted to wish Chuck well in his new assignment as captain of the county's gang and narcotics unit. So thank you very much, Chuck, for your service. And as of Friday, Greg Reilersdam, who's also in the back, has taken over the Vista Command as captain. And we'll set up meetings for each of you to formally meet with Greg. And then he will be presenting in August on activities in the Sheriff's Department. And then the last item I had was happy birthday to our deputy mayor,
John
John
Aguilera today. Happy birthday. Okay, I have one other thing. Those are all happy things. Now I have a sad thing here. We're going to adjourn tonight's meeting to honor the memory of Nancy Croft, who passed away on May 25th unexpectedly. Nancy was the vice chair of the Vista Silver Star Foundation, and she presented before the City Council in April. She was also on the Senior Commission for over 10 years. She's survived by her husband, Jack Croft, who was a longtime CDBG commissioner, and so we're adjourned it tonight in her honor. So with that, we are adjourned at 8:56.